Hey, how you doing, man? You all right, Carl?
Brucey, how are you?
Hey, I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. Wow, that audio is beautiful. It's really good.
What's that?
Your audio is fantastic.
No, really.
Yeah, it's
The
brilliant, man. Thank you very much.
first time I've used
Sometimes
it on a first time I've used it on a Zoom call.
it's brilliant. It's really, really good. Awesome. Lovely job. Excellent. Mate, my normal camera that I use packed up literally as I started the meeting, so I'm using this one up here. It it sometimes zooms in, sometimes zooms out, but it's all I've got at the moment. Sorry
That's
about that.
fine. How's my visual quality then? It's just
Beautiful
from
as
my
always, mate.
it's just
Beautiful.
from my Mac at the moment.
Is
So,
it? Yes, that's what mine is. It's the
oh, is it?
studio display camera, but it sort of follows you when you move. So I'll try and
Oh,
stay
that's
stationary.
clever. No, no, that's just showing off, isn't it?
Do you
No,
want to have a chat at all before we crack on, or are you happy just to get going and we'll sort of get to know each other as we go?
no, let's go. Let's just go for it. Let's
Beautiful.
freestyle.
Right, happy days. Well, we started then. How you
Oh,
doing?
okay. I like it.
Uh, Folks, welcome back to the podcast. First off, I owe everybody listening or watching a big apology. I've not been around for about the last month, maybe 6 weeks. It's just gone mental. It's just so busy at the moment with tours. When I'm away on tour, obviously I can't edit, and then it means there's a big backlog trying to get videos out, and it's just been a nightmare. So I've put the podcast on hold for the time being. We're sort of trickling back in now, so I reckon by August we should be back up and running, being regular, one a week. This is probably going to be interspersed, I think. We'll probably have one in a week or two off and then back in again. But anyway, right, that's not your problem to worry about, Car. How are you doing?
I'm good. Really pleased to be talking to you after all this time
Mate,
because
I'm so happy that you said yes, you'd come on. It's fantastic. You're a bit of a legend.
I don't see it myself. Yeah, I get, yeah, I don't see it. I'm just a normal guy, just like you, just like everyone else on this planet. We're just normal people, right?
You're a normal guy with an incredible skill. If people aren't aware of who you are, who Car Lee is, can you just introduce yourself to people and then we'll go from there?
Okay. I'm a f- I'm a bloke who's been around the block a few times, working on motorbike magazines in the UK, design of magazines mostly, and going out on the occasional road test. And since then, since the sort of mid 90s, I've been working on magazines such as Bike Magazine, Ride Magazine, Performance Bikes, Practical Sports Bikes, Cyber Magazine. They were the main sort of motorcycle magazines that I designed for a few years.
Mhm.
Um, in the last sort of 15 years or so, I've been freelancing for myself, just set up my own little business, and I've just been drawing pictures of motorbikes, and people have been paying me money for it. And so I've
As
been getting
ever,
away with it all this time still.
understated as ever, drawing little pictures of motorbikes. Car does, what's the best way of describing it? I'll probably get the terminology totally wrong, mate, so I do apologize. But Car does like 3D renders of concept designs for motorbikes. So uh, do you get a brief from manufacturers, or is it just what you hear in the sort of motorcycle ether? You come up with a proposed design that you think it's going to look like.
Okay, there's a definite sort of split in my work. Um, some of the stuff I do is from magazines or websites, or media sites, and they say, "Look, we think this new bike's going to come out by Ducati or BMW or whatever, and
Yeah.
we might have some guesses or some educated guesses or even some leaked spy images of the bike out in testing, a sort of a prototype out in testing." So they'll send me what they have and they'll say, "Can you make this look like the finished product? What you think it's going to look like?" And using those sort of clues and the visual clues and using what I know of that bike previously, I'll try and put together something that might what the bike might look like when it's finished in on the showroom floor. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong. Um, but I try and make it, as interesting as possible. So that's one side when I do it for the stuff for magazines. And then there's another side where I do visualizing paint jobs and how a special project might come together for a private individual or a small custom bike builder. So I'll just create a visual of what that person's got in their head. So they might want to see, I don't know, a Fireblade with a KTM paint job or something like, silly like that. And believe me, it's happened. And then I'll do that and they'll say, yeah, that really works. I like that. And so that's another client. And the final client is myself. So I'm the final client where I look at something and I think, wouldn't it be great if they did that with that engine and put that bodywork on that? Surely there's a market for that kind of bike.
Yeah.
And I'll just put it out there on social media and it'll get lots of traction and, raise the awareness of what I do. So I'm like the third client, really.
Gotcha. I should have said this right at the very start, mate. It's very rude of me. Do you have a tipple of choice for the evening?
Do you know, I'm just having tea.
No problems with that.
I'm just having tea. And I've got some water. I'm trying to, shed a few pounds before I go on holiday.
You're putting me to shame, mate. I've got a beer here.
Okay. Normally, if I did have one, it would be a Guinness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I love a nice Guinness.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Right. Yeah. Let's crack this open. So here's to your health, pal. Slang, cheers to you.
Cheers.
I got sent a beer I had these lads on the podcast fairly recently, a couple of episodes ago. They're the Searles to Dakar lads. It's two brothers who are looking to enter the 2025 Dakar.
Yeah.
So they're just in the early stages really of getting the whole project up and running. So they sent me a t-shirt and a can of beer and some stickers to say thanks for coming on podcast. Cheers, boys.
That's right up your street, that, isn't it? Sort of,
absolutely. Yeah, buy me beer. I'm everybody's mate.
Yeah, being out there in the middle of nowhere, just finding your way from A to B, and
absolutely, I do love that. I sort of made a rod for my own back, to be honest. After the big world trip, because I made this thing about hating off road, and I don't hate riding off road. I'm just not very good at it. It's not my thing, Like I'm a road rider. But it seemed to gather a lot of traction, and all of a sudden I despise, everyone thinks I despise off-road. So I'm slowly trying to do a little bit more off-road on the channel. And I'm off to Morocco actually next month for nearly 2 weeks, doing pretty much all off-road on the GSs with a mate's company down south. So looking forward to that. That's going to be a good
Yeah, so you'll be covering that across a few videos then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as long as I don't die of heat stroke, yeah. It's going to be near 50 degrees, I think. So it's going to be hot.
I'm envious. I'm totally envious. I wish I had the guts to do something like that for such a long period of time.
Sorry, go on.
I've not done much off roading myself. I love watching it. I love the idea of it, but the slightest bit of wiggle on that back wheel, and it's clenched bum time, isn't it?
Says the man who sat on the turbocharged Hayabusa.
Yeah, that's like you though. I'm mainly a road rider.
Yeah.
In a previous life I did a lot of track days, but nowadays I stay mostly on the road. And that supercharged Hayabusa project that I've been involved with TTS Performance is I've ridden it on a runway, but it's strange when you're riding a bike on a runway on an airstrip, you don't really get a sensation of speed because the road, if you like, is so wide. You don't get lampposts coming past and hedgerows and things like that. It's just a wide open space. So you could be doing 150 mile an hour, but it doesn't feel it. But when you get that same bike on the road, or any super bike on the road, and you're in a narrow street, then those slower speeds feel really, really fast, don't they? Because everything's flashing by.
Absolutely.
Like street talk.
Exactly. Yeah, you must have been to the TT, I'm assuming.
I've have to confess, I've never been to the TT.
Really?
Never been to. I've been to see Irish road racing.
Right.
A few years back, but I've never been to the TT.
It's just phenomenal, isn't it? As you said,
the stuff I've seen is incredible. Yeah.
The concept
I'll get there
of
one
speed,
day.
honestly, I say it to everybody, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. I think the whole experience is a little bit different now. This year seems to be, they really seem to have made an effort with the coverage, with like, dare I say it, the production value of the whole event when you're there. People were saying that it just felt like, you know, you saw more of the racing, even though you were on the island. Because I found when I've gone there in the past, you know, you stand there trackside or roadside at whatever location you're at, and you know, say you're following one rider, well, they fly by. 17 minutes later, they're coming by again. So you kind of miss most of the race, don't you?
The last time I was there must have been about 15, 20 years ago. I was at Skerries. I watched the road racing at Skerries, and that was pretty insane. Still got memories of. It's just the speed at which they go past and the proximity of them, isn't it?
Totally. Of
these guys and how just grounded it all is. How grounded the riders are. You know, they're just in another world, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. When you go in the pits, you can go into the you know, back in the pits, and you can get right up close and personal with the riders, as long as they are willing to chat to you. And literally, they're just talking to you like almost like a mate, aren't they? And then 20 minutes later, they're on the start line and shooting 200 mile an hour down Bray Hill.
Well, wasn't, you know, Grand Prix back in the sort of 80s was like that, wasn't it? It was, you know, 70s and 80s. It was, you know, your Grand Prix riders, they were just they were drinking beers and stuff, weren't they?
Absolutely. It seems to be much more accessible, doesn't it, for like the common person road racing? Yeah. It's a hot topic, I know, but I hope they never get rid of it. I hope the sort of, you know, the do-gooder types don't get their hands on it and it gets banned. I hope not.
It's very cyclic though, isn't it? The argument for the TT. It's, you know, every time there's a fatality or an incident, a big incident, there's all people that just want to shut it down. And, you know, those guys, we all know those guys do that because they know, they're aware of the risks, and they're doing what they love. They're doing what they love. So there's risks every single day when you sling your leg over a bike, anything could happen. Totally. You could drop your bike in your garage and it could break your foot or something.
Well, we're all grown-ups, aren't we? We're all grown-ups, we're all adults, and we're all capable of making our decisions. And I don't think anyone should have the power to stop you doing what you want to do, within reason, obviously, as long as what you want to do is not harming other people and, you know, that sort of stuff. Yeah. Live your life, man.
Just while I remember, you know, just before you did your round the world adventure, did you try and get some sponsorship at the Ace Cafe? Were you at the Ace Cafe?
Did. Yeah, I did an event. I did the first ever adventure day at the Ace Caf. I had a stall in the bike there.
That's right. Yeah.
Were you there?
I think I was there. I met you. I think I was talking to you. I'm pretty sure I spoke to you.
Oh mate,
at the Ace Cafe. I just remember talking to someone who was going around the world on a sports bike, and they were looking for any sort of support that people could offer. I sort of was very naive, I think. You know, I kind of thought to myself, no one's ever done it on the GSXR. You know, I was a copper that guarded Downing Street. I was doing it for, you know, in memory of my mum, and I thought, we'll be able to get some sort of corporate backing for this. No, nothing. Nothing. I got kit. You know, getting kit, as we know, is fairly straightforward thing to do. Sorry, the police have just turned up outside. I just looked out the window and the old bell are going to my neighbours. Getting kit from companies is fairly straightforward and easy, isn't it? But to get the actual readies off of the companies, that's a totally different thing. And it had to be pretty much, well, the first attempt was self-funded, and then it went a wee bit wrong in Africa, so I ended up home for a bit and then miraculously managed to pick up some sponsorship. So sorry to interrupt, folks. I will be quick. It is sponsor shout-out time. We are sponsored, as always, by Ultimate Add-ons. Bit of a blurb to read out for them.
Ultimate Add-ons are the premium manufacturer of mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for motorcycles, with a kit for any bike and a proven track record of creating products that keep your devices safe, secure, and easily accessible. The Ultimate Add-ons product range is ideal for any rider, from the commuter to the round-the-world adventurer. Why shell out on an expensive GPS system when you could use your smartphone, keeping it charged and within easy reach to take photos of your travels at the same time? Ultimate Add-ons waterproof, shockproof and dustproof tough cases are available for all flagship smartphone models and are designed by riders for riders. Find out why Ride Magazine gives Ultimate Add-ons their coveted Best Buy certification. Keep riding this winter with Ultimate Add-ons. It's all about the journey. Now, folks, if you head to ultimateaddons.com and use the code TeapotOne10, you'll get 10% off. I've got an affiliate link for them as well, which I'll leave down below. So if you listen to the podcast, check out the show notes. If you're watching the vid, have a look at the vid description. And obviously with the affiliate, I also make a slight commission off that. Costs you nothing more. So a massive thanks to Ultimate Add-ons. We are also sponsored by, as always, the Influencer Store. Influencer Store handle all my merch. You can see up there, I've got loads of hats, there's hoodies, there's all sorts of things. So if you head to TeapotOne.com, head to the shop, you can check out all the merchandise, and that is all handled by the folks over at the Influencer Store. The Influencer Store helps you build your brand, big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design, and there are no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at theinfluencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. Again, there'll be links down below, folks. Lastly, a big shout out to all of you over in the clan, over on Patreon. As always, folks, I keep saying this, but it is true. I literally could not do this full time without your support over there. So a huge, heartfelt thank you from me. If you'd like to go that extra mile and help support both the podcast and the main TeapotOne vid channel, then head to patreon.com/TeapotOne. Again, links down below. A massive thanks to each and every one of you who's listening or watching the podcast. I love doing the podcast. I really do. And I love getting all the feedback from you, from all the various different guests that we've had. If you could be so kind, on whatever platform it is that you're listening or watching the podcast, if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify in particular, you can rate the podcast on there. Obviously, a 5-star rating goes a long way to help boost the podcast up through the ranks. And if you're watching the video, just give it a like, give it a comment, and both video and audio, if you share that with everyone that you think might be interested, that would be a massive help. All right, folks, let's get back to it.
Just out of interest, how did you cover the event? How did you tell the world that you'd done this or that you were doing it at the time?
Facebook was still fairly new-ish, so I had a Facebook page.
Yeah.
And that was really it. I think I did a couple of press releases and sent them out to everyone and anyone I could think of. Fast Bikes Mag picked it up, so they covered it a little bit before I left, and then the idea was I was just going to write a little paragraph for them throughout the course of the trip. But as you've probably figured out, I've got verbal diarrhea. So, 500 words turned into about 8,000 every month. So, they ran some features on it. And that was about it, really. It genuinely didn't have much of a following until after the event. Yeah. I think by the end of the trip, I had about 3,500 Facebook followers or something, maybe 4,000 Facebook followers, and I think 600 subs on YouTube. So it wasn't massive by any stretch. It's really, since then it's all picked up. So weird.
Yeah, brilliant. And did Nick Sanders was doing that sort of stuff back then, wasn't he?
Yeah,
on an R1 and but he would be.
So go on. There's a little bit of a delay, mate. Sorry. Yeah,
he would be sort of flying around the world, wouldn't he? He'd be sort of zipping through countries as quickly as possible, right? Is that the approach you took?
No, Nick Sanders sort of went for the records a lot of the time, the fastest circumnavigation around the world. He's done it umpteen times. He's done it on Fireblades, he's done it on Triumph, he's done it on the R1, he's cycled around the world. He's done all sorts of stuff. It's amazing achievements the chap has achieved in his life. I had a time constraint to an extent, and obviously a budget restraint. So, I kind of thought I would be maybe max 2 years. That's an absolute max. And then the way things worked, I think it was about a year and a half. I think I was away for all in 440 odd days. Looking back, I definitely wish I'd spent longer in a lot of different places. But I think by the time I got to South America, me personally, I was in the mindset of I've got to get to America. I've got to get to America. So, like, I bombed up through South America. It's a crime that I spent so little time in Chile and Peru and all these different places that I went to.
You must have been asked this. You must have been asked this before. Would you do it again?
I have. And the answer has changed over the years. Initially, I said no, because I'd done it and I didn't have that fire to do it again. Right. I was driven by a torrent, of what's the word? Like passion to get this done. Yeah. This was my baby. I'd promised my mum before she passed away that I would do it. So I had all that there, and years of sort of not really knowing what I was doing in life. I had all that fuel in it to get it done. Yeah. And that sort of disappeared once I'd done it. It was like, okay, well, that's a big tick. Yeah. What next? Yeah. We just crack on with normal life now. But as time's gone on, I'm getting itchy feet. I am starting to get real itchy feet. But I'm married now, and I've got commitments like everyone else. So I'm not saying it's not going to happen. It will, but I think I'll have to take a different approach to that sort of travel. Figure it out. But anyway, this isn't about me, mate. Everyone listening is going to be like,
but this section of your life is fascinating to for so many people. Just finally, what's the one takeaway from that trip that you did? Was there something what did you learn about yourself? Or is there something else?
People are good. I was very suspicious of people. I think probably because of my job in the police. Most people I dealt with lied to me. Most people are trying to hide something when they chat to the police. That sounds quite a sweeping statement, but certainly in my role within inner London, in the places I was working at, people very rarely actually told you the truth. And you used to, I think it made you a very suspicious person, and someone who didn't trust others. And that's definitely who I was. Going on the trip and sort of being forced out of my little bubble that I'd been living in within the police environment, going out into the big bad world and meeting real people, outside of the Western world, going to these places that you see in the news and, dealing with people from backgrounds and religions that you're getting fed nothing but negativity through on the news. All of a sudden, I'm there in their backyard and, I need somewhere to buy food. I need fuel. I need directions. I need their help. And I can't think of a single time when anybody didn't offer that help, whether that was a roof over my head for the night or some water if I needed it. People are the same the world over. People are just good. Yeah. And I really try through this podcast and anything that I'm doing, I try to promote that, because I think especially this day and age with the bullshit that we get fed in the media, people are getting fed the wrong impressions, I think, about people and the world about them, and not just internationally. Here in the UK, it's we're a great country here in the UK, full of lovely people who will help, and I think we get very suspicious of each other because of what you get fed.
We've become sort of strangely divided and tribal, haven't we? In a lot of ways. So it's good to sort of try and recognize that there's more to life than disagreeing with someone, or I don't know. I'm not quite sure what it is, but people are really quick to sort of offload their opinion now, aren't they?
Massively.
Certainly online, whereas in the past you weren't able to do that, were you? You know, no one had a soapbox the way we have now.
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody has a platform now, and I think because of the because of the anonymous nature of social media, people give it both barrels, don't they? And people say things that I'm pretty sure they would never say to your face. They'll say because they feel protected behind their screen. And I think the conspiracy theorists out there say that, you know, the big people in control out there, they're trying to segregate people by making us into, you know, we're making us tribal. So we all have our own little tribes and we agree on this and we don't agree with that. And I'm not so sure about that. I think social media with the algorithms and things, they feed you what they think gets a reaction from you. So, you know, for example, if you like looking at pussycats on social media, and when you see a pussycat, your eyes dilate and you spend a bit longer looking at it and you like and you might share, well, the algorithm knows that through the technology in your phone and your computers. It's the camera's looking at you and it's reading all that. So the algorithm knows, right, that triggers you. So it'll send you more stuff. So obviously if a report about a mass shooting, if that has the same effect on you, well, it's going to send that to you as well, isn't it? And I just think that's an unfortunate byproduct of the technology that's sort of built into social media these days. Yeah. So maybe we have to be a bit more conscious with what we look at or what we engage with. Maybe, you know, if you want positivity in your life, engage with positive content. Maybe that's the key. I don't know.
I remember thinking this, that you know, devices were listening to you all the time, and seeing it mentioned and mentioning it to some people, and they'd dismiss it. They say no.
Everyone thinks you're a nutter, don't they?
Yeah, everything thinks you're a nutter, and that was something that turned out to be so very true.
Absolutely.
And I guess the good thing is we all know it's happening now. But the bad thing is we don't seem to care.
That's the thing. We don't care. We know this is happening, and well, okay.
Yeah.
We invite it into our life. We've got Amazon Alexas and all this that I won't have them in the house.
No, and good old Siri, always listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. It's always there, isn't it? And it's funny. What was I doing? I did a review on, blimey, what was it? I did a review on something on my bike. It might have even been an app. And the app recorded all your GPS information, your speed, lean angles, all this sort of stuff. That's what it was. It was the Innov dashcam systems that are on my bike, and obviously they record 24/7, like any dashcam out there. And people were like, well, I don't like that because you've got a record there of exactly where you've been, at what time, at what date, and what speed. Everything's there. You know, I don't want to make it easy for the police, blah, 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 blah. And I just thought, the chances are you're typing that on your phone and your phone is doing exactly the same thing. And it's a damn sight easy for the police to access that information. So it's like, come on, you know what I mean? It's happening. It's already happening. It's there. Yeah. Just get over it. Anyway, right. We've gone off on a tangent.
Yes, we have.
Let's get back to you drawing.
It's all good.
So how did you get into bikes? Have you always been into bikes, or was this something that came later in life?
Do you know what? I was born in a little place called Liverpool. You might have heard of it.
Calm down.
And one of my best mates had a motorbike. He bought a DT125 LC, and he took me for a spin on the back of it. And I just thought, yeah, it's all right. It's all right. And so for a year, because he was a bit older than me, but for a year, I thought, do I like motorbikes or not? And I was undecided. And then another mate bought a scooter,
Mhm.
and 16 at the time. And he said, do you want to go the scooter? And I said, nah, not really. He goes, I don't mean on the back. He goes, do you want to go? So he let me take his scooter around the block. And I thought it was amazing. It was the scooter that did it. It was being in control,
Yeah.
and sitting on the front, and being able to go fast.
Yeah.
Without
Freedom.
any effort. Yeah. And so I've been riding since I was 16. First bike, Honda SS50, bought it for 90 quid. Crashed it the day before I was meant to sell it. But it was great. Did 45 miles an hour. And to a 16-year-old, that's just the best thing ever. To be able to get away from the lights, and it was just amazing. And ever since then, been hooked. You see my cat in the background.
I can, yeah. It's having a wee stretch in the sun.
Yeah. So always been into bikes from the age of 16. How did I get into magazines? How did I get into motorbike magazines? I studied in London, graphic design, and I worked for a design company doing packaging for the likes of Tesco and Summerfield. I don't know if you remember Summerfield.
I do. Yeah, absolutely.
So I did. I designed like gift vouchers and honey jars and things like that. And it totally wasn't where I wanted to be. However, it was a job in design. And what I did on the side was I did a bit of dispatch riding as well in London, which I both hated and loved in equal measures, because on sunny days it was amazing. And you got the nice jobs. On days when it was chucking it down, not so much fun. So I did that for a while, and then I saw a job come up for a designer up in Peterborough, of all places, and I applied for it. It was a graphic design job. It was a magazine design job for Bike magazine, and I didn't get it. Did I get it? No, it was for another magazine. It was for another magazine. I didn't get it, but they kept my Rupert Paul. It was, and he kept my name on file. And within months, I heard back from them, and there was another position on Bike magazine. So I went for that, and the rest is history. So I worked for these magazines, bike magazines, for about 10 years as staff, and these were like the days before the internet. The internet was not a thing. So from about the mid-90s to 2007, I worked at a place called EMAP, which had all the main bike magazines in the UK. You had Performance Bikes, MCN, and these magazines at the time were selling a lot. There was, some of the big ones were selling like 100,000 copies a month, which was just incredible. MCN was selling 250,000. It was doing that was where people got their information from about motorbikes, and it was all about. I remember it. Yeah, it was all about the next big 600s test or the thousands test or whatever group test, and what these guys said went. What the journalists of at that time said, they were like rock stars, weren't they, in motorcycle circles? So I remember going for my interview and looking at Mark Forsyth sitting across a light box looking at some transparencies, and I was like, God, it's Mark Forsyth sitting there, and all the other guys that were household names in motorcycling households, that is. Yeah. It was just such a cool environment to be in, and seeing all these motorbikes parked up before anyone else in the country had seen them. These bikes were out all parked outside, just sort of. It was all a bit blasé. It was like, oh yeah, here's the 4 of the greatest super bikes just parked up. I remember seeing the 748 Ducati 748 for the first time, and it was just the most beautiful thing. And it was like, wow, when did this happen? It was Ducati. It was just all gleaming and red, and a couple of weeks later, I was riding it, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I was riding this Ducati 748, first one in the country.
It's a shame we've lost that, haven't we? Because of the internet. We don't get that surprise anymore, do we? Because somebody somewhere always gets the expose. Somebody somewhere manages to get the shot. Although this bloody new GS, still haven't seen any confirmed actual, this is what it's going to look like shots yet.
No, they've got, they've been really sneaky, BMW. All the spy shots you've seen of that bike, I think are pretty accurate, except for the headlight.
Yeah.
I'm 99% convinced that the headlight has got a cover over it. So what you see, yeah. So what you see on there is like a tiny little LED. It's like a tiny little sort of projector LED.
Yeah.
And you look at that and you think that can't be the headlight. Surely not. You know, that's got to be more than that. And when you examine all the pixels really close up, you can tell there's some kind of it's like a bit of black plastic, like a postcard size bit of plastic just covering the lens. So they're keeping that under wraps. But yeah, it's definitely coming, and you're definitely going to get one, aren't you?
I've put my money down. I've put money down as a deposit already to make sure I get one of the first ones. Yeah, just because I know it's going to be hot property, and whether it's good or whether it's bad or whether it's like the first 1250s and there's issues with them, I'm in quite a fortunate position really in that if anything goes wrong, then I can document it, and either way, it's going to be good content for me. So yeah, I'm going for it. I'm hoping it's fairly different to the 1250, and it's not just a couple of little changes. I'd like to see something, dare I say, radical, but I'm also quite nervous about what they might do. We'll see. I might have to get the KTM if it's bad.
Yeah, well, it's going to have more power, isn't it?
Yeah,
I guess that's the power, and the emissions probably is what's driving the move to water cooling.
Yeah. Well, the actual stats have already come out, haven't they? There was a Swiss publication last week or a couple of weeks ago. They released them because it had to be made public in advance. So they've already come out, and it's down on the Ducati and it's down on the KTM. It's more than it currently is, but it's not a huge jump. So but that's just figures, isn't it? Figures don't always transpose into real world riding. We'll see. Yeah,
it's never been the thing though, has it? The big sort of horsepower numbers for GSs. It's never been about that, has it?
No, absolutely. I've always said that they're not the perfect bike, but they do 90%, 95% of everything well. And it's, as always, it's the aftermarket care that you get. That's why I go with that brand. Right, that's half of the audience currently throwing things at us because we're talking about bloody GSs again. But before we move off that car, when are you doing a little design for that?
I've done one already. I did one when the images first came out.
Did you?
Yeah, when the early images came out. I did it for a German magazine called Motorrad.
I will have seen that then.
Yeah, I've done so many GSs for Motorrad, and yeah, they get I've done so many GSs in the last few years, from the 1300 to the M1300 to an R18 based GS. I've done a couple of them. Yeah, those boxer twins are very popular.
Yeah.
But I'm overdue doing an updated one of what I think it would look like without that shield on the headlamp. But until I can get to that, I've got a couple more. So I'm looking on to the side. That's where my job board is.
Gotcha.
I've got a couple more BMWs to do in the next few weeks. So
right. I look forward to seeing what you come up with then from the front. I'm hearing a September launch. That's not confirmed. That's just what the rumours are. September launch, and then in the showrooms for you to buy November. So we'll see if that actually happens. Yeah, we'll see.
Your eyes are lighting up when you say that.
Well, it's new bike time, isn't it? This is the longest I've ever kept a bike, other than the round the world Jigsaw. I still got that. But yeah, I just had to get this latest GS. I had to get it MOT'd. It's like, bloody hell. Second bike I've ever owned that's had to get an MOT.
Yeah. Congratulations.
So, thanks. Yeah. Right, where were we then? So we've got you moving into bikes and into the magazines. Oh yeah, This was something that I was intrigued to know about. So if you've been designing, labels and product for the supermarket environment, how do you make the jump to magazines, and in particular into bike magazines? Did you have to self-teach yourself anything, any particular skills, or is it just stuff you picked up on the job?
It was mostly stuff I just picked up along the way. I was trained as a graphic designer, but my real passion lay in motorcycles, and to be able to combine motorcycles with design and graphic design was just like, this is a dream job. And to get to ride the occasional new bike as well, absolutely dream job. Going out on road tests, going out on launches, press launches. I really had to up my game, my riding skills as well. Just to be able to evaluate a motorcycle properly. But yeah, it was a real experience. Working on magazines day in, day out. You learned about working to deadlines as well, organizing photo shoots, meeting famous riders, and just going to nice cool events and getting all the kit supplied to you, getting a free bike every year, all that kind of stuff. It was just, what better environment for someone who likes motorbikes and likes design.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I guess that's why I stayed in that game for so long. And even after I left, I was still designing magazines for a living, and I was still designing motorbikes magazines for a living, just on a freelance basis. So that was a really good move, because it just allowed me the freedom to go off and do my own stuff, which is draw pictures of motorbikes as well.
Yeah,
but stay in touch with all those people, all those contacts that I'd made over the years, and create some new ones, like all around the world. So yeah,
it's a very is insular the right word? It's a very small world, isn't it? The motorcycle world. Globally, it's very small, isn't it? But in particular here in the UK, in that everyone knows everybody, don't they? And everyone just seems to move from one position to the next position, but they all just seem to sort of circulate around the whole motorcycle niche, that whole sector.
Yeah. But magazines, as you know, though, aren't they're not as prevalent. Is that the word? They're not as dominant as they once were. No. We're in the digital age now, and magazines are selling they have a fraction of the influence that they used to have, but they're still a nice thing to hold, in your hand, and I think the people still making magazines, more power to them. I hope they continue to still be a market. I mean, but it is very much, people are consuming media in so many different ways now, aren't they? So I think the magazines of old have had to adapt to that. They've had to adapt to that and spread their wings a little bit and have a digital presence as well.
Totally. It was interesting to see how the magazines did that, because as I was sort of moving, as YouTube was gathering momentum, particularly here in the UK, because obviously it was quite big in the States, but the motorcycle vlogging and all this sort of stuff, it wasn't really that big in the UK, but it started to gather momentum sort of 2015, 16, 17 onwards. And it almost felt like the magazines were, pretty much laughing at any of us that were doing it. But then you could see the odd one or two having a little try. I remember MCN with their channel starting it, and the first attempts at MCN were terrible. It was like happy days. If this is a competition, brilliant. And then all of a sudden, they got their shit in order and like started producing really good content, and the sound was great, and visuals were great, and it was like, oh God, I know where this is going. And it's boom. And now they're becoming very dominant again within the YouTube sector and the digital sector.
But back in the, when these I know you love the term, but when influencers were just a new thing, you're right. There was a sort of snobbery from traditional motorcycle journalists, traditional motorcycle writers,
and I understand that.
There was a snobbery that was like, what do these guys know, and there was an air of sort of invulnerability, were kind of untouchable, and then. But the thing is, the air was slowly coming out of the balloon. They were losing traction, or even if some of the people working on those titles could see what was coming, could see what was happening to motorcycle media, they weren't in a position to do anything about it because management would want a return on that. They'd be like, well, what's in it for us? We can't be giving away our content for free. And that was all, from my viewpoint anyway, from what I could see, it was like, there's no money in it for us. Why should we give our stuff away? Why should we, show our hand? We've got to protect this sector at all costs. But slowly, the slice of the cake was just getting smaller, wasn't it? It was just getting smaller, and people were more into sound and video, and all that was coming to the forefront, and those guys that was at the forefront of that, the influencers, the YouTube guys, they had a head start. They were learning as they went, and obviously, you got so many people now doing a really good job on really small budgets, and just finding their own feet. And and so the magazines have had to learn pretty quickly. They've always had the skills to do it, but it's those sort of decisions that are made higher up that say, yes, go ahead and do this, put your energy into this. And that's the benefit, I think, of being like an influencer, where you're self-employed, you're a one man, one woman, one person band. You haven't got that. You haven't got that management team that are making decisions above you. It's just like, what am I going to do? Right, let's just do it. It's interesting what you said there about the established journalists' sort of attitude towards the YouTubers in the early days. I totally get it, because I find myself like that now with some of the new lot that are coming in. I'm like, what do you know about bikes? You know what I mean? Like, why should I attach any weight to what you're saying? And then you sort of catch yourself and go, oh yeah, that was me. That was me like 5 years ago. Oh, okay, right, yeah, get you. I mean, it is, it's completely understandable. These guys have been doing it for years. They've got all that experience, they've got all that knowledge, they've got all that contact, and then these young kids come in and they're snatching little bits of attention from them, and there's a part of them that doesn't want to accept that.
No, I get it. I totally get it.
But now, like you say, they're all up to it. They all know that's an essential part of getting that message out. I think I remember when certain influencers would go on a launch or whatever, and they'd be out before some of the big guns. And if it's MCN's got at least a week behind. If it's a motorcycle magazine, if they're could potentially be 2 months late on the scoop, if you like. So the internet was where it was at. Any sort of fresh news it could come out straight away. You didn't even have to be good. You just had to be first.
Absolutely.
And and people, that's what people were hungry for. They wanted to see this stuff first.
And now we're in the era of YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, things like that. So it's less than a minute's worth of content I think ideally, I think you want less than 40 seconds.
Yeah.
And that can be as raw as you like. So literally you can be there, film it on your phone, post straight away. You're talking minutes, from a launch, the second the embargo is lifted. You can have content up in minutes. It says me that is notoriously slow at getting any content out there. But it is possible. You can do it now, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I get it. It's people have got such short attention spans now, haven't they? Which is why we have reels, under a minute, which is why they do so well, because people get bored and they just want to swipe on, don't they?
Yeah, totally.
In magazine land, it was always the case where I'd be designing a cover, and the cover would always have to work. It'd have to stand out on the shelf, just like it does in your Instagram feed. It has to stop the scroll. It has to stop people scanning by. So you'd have to design a cover that could work in 2 to 3 seconds. If it didn't work in 2 to 3 seconds, you'd lost your moment. Which is exactly the same in Instagram now.
Thumbnails, for YouTube
and YouTube thumbnails. If you're not getting that message across in a couple of seconds, forget it. With a striking image or a really catchy headline, and they've got to work. There's a real skill to it, and it's got to work in tandem, hasn't it, with the caption as well. The first few words of that caption. It's a skill.
I haven't mastered that yet.
No, same, absolutely the same.
That's interesting. I was going to ask then, seeing as that the magazines are still out there, have they had to adapt in in their design and their layout then to accommodate the modern digital era? Or is it that, as we just discussed there, the modern digital era is actually taking a lot of things from that traditional print design methodology, in terms of layout and things like that? Are the two interchangeable, or is one affecting the other more now, do you think?
I think there are some basic rules that apply to both internet and magazines. When you design a magazine, you have to sort of guide the reader through a feature. So if you're designing a feature, it has to be really easy to read.
Right.
The signposter needs to be correct. So then it needs to have a flow, so someone can enjoy that feature without having to pick out the text from an image or strain their eyes. and it just has to read, it just has to read smoothly, be a smooth experience. On the internet, I think it has to have similar rules, doesn't it? You still have to have that good signposting. You need to be clear about what it is the message you're trying to convey.
Yes.
And not get, you have to get to the point. It has to have a purpose. So again, it has to guide the reader, visually, or even through sound, as to what's coming next. So yeah, it's just about making the content digestible, isn't it? You have to make it sort of tasty.
Yeah, definitely. I don't really follow the motorcycle YouTubers too much. I traditionally follow the vloggers from YouTube. So obviously Casey Neistat, Peter McKinnon, people like that. They're the granddads of YouTube sort of vlogging, and listening to them, particularly Casey Neistat, who comes from a traditional film background, and then he's sort of utilizing his film skill set in producing his YouTube content. Listening to him, he always said story is king, and it's like you need to have the first, second, third act. You start, middle, end. You need to take, no matter how long your vid is, you need to take somebody on a journey, and it needs to be a clearly set out journey, and it needs to come to an acceptable conclusion. People need to feel like they've had their cake, they've enjoyed it, they've finished it, next, and leave them hungry for more. And that's definitely something I try to do in my vids, but it's I'm very aware that there's very few of them where I would say I look at and go, yeah, I think I've ticked those boxes. You know, it's difficult to do in the sort of world I live in with YouTube. You know, it's all trip orientated mostly, where you're just filming, you're just reacting. You're not setting up a shot and I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that. You're reactionary filming.
I get that. It's storytelling, isn't it?
Yes, that's
storytelling. You know, and I try and get that. I try and get that across in Instagram posts. I mean, Instagram's mostly where I live these days on social media. A bit of Facebook, but mostly Instagram. And I love being able to tell a story over a carousel, and the art of it's a bit like magazines. It's putting that content into bite-sized chunks so that it can be enjoyed.
Yeah.
And without overpowering or overwhelming someone who's swiping through.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think a lot of people try and tell too much, and they're just not there for that. Not on Instagram anyway.
Yeah.
But I think there was a video of yours that I watched a while back now, and I was doing what was I doing? I was doing an article. I was writing an article because I do a bit of writing as well. I was writing an article and I was creating a electric concept bike. So I was doing loads of research on electric bikes.
Yeah.
And I happened to, I'm going to say it. So I happened to come across, I was on YouTube searching away, and I came across your trip around the UK.
Oh yeah.
On the Energicas.
Yeah. Don't ever do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was fascinated by it. And what was good about it? It was refreshingly, and this is a word that's used a lot, but it's so true. It just felt really authentic. Right. Thanks. And, it wasn't trying to sugarcoat anything. It wasn't a launch where you were on your best behavior and you were evaluating a bike. It was a real sort of summary of what it's like to own an electric bike for a long period of time and use it for a trip that you would typically do on a combustion engine bike.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was fascinating to watch.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
I loved all the ups and downs in it, and it was storytelling for me. It was storytelling. It was you reacting to the situation you were put in, and there was a neat little summary at the end as well about how long it took you to do the trip and how much quicker it would have been on your GS.
Yeah.
But yeah, it felt like there was a beginning, a mission, a middle, and an end to it. So it was a good little sort of roundup conclusion, if you like.
Thanks,
so yeah,
man.
I really enjoyed that, mate.
Thank you. I always, it sounds really corny, and I appreciate it's hard for people to believe unless they actually, they actually know you as a person. But I don't bullshit about things because I just, I'm a shit liar. So I don't see the point in lying. So I say exactly what I think in my videos, and that can obviously, as you appreciate, that can get you into a little bit of bother. Well, not so much bother, but it's just companies might not want to do any work with you because they're like, well, we want you to say this about our product. But I'm like, well, no, I want to get hold of your product and I want to use it as a motorcyclist will, and I'll give my honest feedback on it, and I'll never just say something's, this is crap. I'll never do that, but I'll be like, well, I don't like this because of this. You might, but I don't for these reasons. And I just think that for me was what I really loved about social media, about YouTube back in the day, because wrongly, I know now because I know some of the journals involved, but I used to read the print media and just think, you've just been paid to say that. You've been taken away on a nice launch, or you've been given all this kit for free. You're going to say it's good. So I was quite refreshed by YouTube because it gave normal people access to actually review, a bike or a bit of kit or whatever it is, and just give your opinion on stuff.
Yeah.
But as that's gathered momentum, it now feels, and I've had people say it about some of my vids, if I've done a sponsored vid on a product, obviously people are going to think, well, you've been paid, you've been paid, so you're going to say that's great. But it's a really hard balance, and I think it's one that I, for one, haven't managed to deal with effectively yet, where you need sponsored content because you need to make a living out of this if you're doing it full time. But at the same extent, it has to come across as authentic as you possibly can. But it's a tightrope, isn't it?
And you have to stay true to yourself, don't you?
Totally.
You have to be able to, as he swigs his sponsored beer.
Oh yeah, my free beer. Yeah.
We used to get this a lot on magazines. We used to get criticized a lot. It was when I worked on Ride magazine, which took a lot of stick from not just the readers, but also the manufacturers who would complain. You know, if their product Ride magazine was famous for its product tests, probably still is, but it was famed for its product tests, and it wasn't that ad friendly to certain manufacturers if they came, sort of bottom of the test, and we had lots of falling out on our. I remember the ad department would always be trying to sort of, calm things down and build bridges and what have you. But we had to stay true to our readers. We had to stay true to what the magazine was about, and it was our number one priority was always to the readers, to be honest to the readers. And if something was crap, if a leather suit was crap, we'd say so. We had some big falling outs with leather manufacturers. We had falling out with franchises as well, motorcycle franchises, dealers. Because we had something called Rider Power. I don't know if you remember that, but it was Britain's biggest biking survey. It ran for years, and every year we'd collate all this data. And so you'd have your top dealers and the dealers at the bottom and the brands people loved. And this wasn't our data. This was data as given by readers.
The end user, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we used to get that a lot. Oh, you're being paid for this. This is like an ad. But from what I could see, and this doesn't just apply to the magazine I was working on at the time, but other magazines as well. We were testing stuff and evaluating it as we saw fit. And to my knowledge, there was no backhanders, there was none of this. There was no money in brown envelopes. Yes, there were some nice launches, but there's ways of evaluating something and giving your opinion of something that's not very good, but saying it in a constructive manner. Yeah,
the old shit sandwich, isn't it?
Shit sandwich.
Bad.
So there's good. Exactly. There's good and bad in everything, isn't there? And
totally.
Yeah. So as long as you get across the points which you need to get across, but in a fair manner, I don't think you can ask for any more than that, really.
Totally. Yeah. I've always said it, and integrity is everything, really, because the second someone thinks you're full of shit, then it's over, isn't it? It's,
yeah, exactly.
Nobody's going to believe anything you say then.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's your brand is your name.
Absolutely.
It's if people don't trust you, why would they bother listening to anything that you say?
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to stay sort of authentic, genuine, true to yourself, and you can't go wrong then, can you? I don't think, anyway.
Well, there's always somebody has something to say in the comments. Always.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of which, obviously I post out on my socials to say who the next guest is, and then people have the opportunity to leave some questions. Right. Are you okay to go through some questions with us?
Yeah, fire away.
Lovely job. How long have you got, Car? I should have asked this at the start.
How long have we been on for? An hour?
We've been doing an hour now.
Oh, gosh, we've been chatting for an hour. Already. How long do you need?
I think the record so far is 4.5 hours. So, whatever you want.
I don't think I've got that. I might have another hour.
Okay, mate, no problems. Yeah. Right, we'll crack through these. Right, first off, we'll go to the clan over on Patreon. So it's patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Charlie Callard. Glad to see the podcast is back, mate. We'll definitely be listening to this one on the Scotland trip. Cheers, Charlie. So I had a quick look through Car's Insta, and my favourites by far are the Hornet and the red and black GPZ 1000R Top Gun bikes. My question, where on earth do you get your ideas from? What you create are simply stunning. So where do you get the ideas and inspiration?
First off, thanks for that. Love a bit of good feedback. Love feedback in general. Good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter. As long as you're not, as long as my work's not being ignored, it's all good. It's all good. Where do I get my inspiration from? I think for a lot of stuff, the Hornet and the GPZ that your man's just picked out, they weren't really done for any. They weren't done because there was a new model coming out, so I didn't have to remain accurate. I just designed those bikes, as to how I would like to see them.
Yeah.
So if I was going to put my money down on a Hornet, what would I like to see on there? So, for instance, there's two versions of that Hornet, if I remember right. There's one with a single-sided swing arm, and there's one with a traditional double-sided swing arm. A Hornet's never going to come out with a single-sided swing arm. It just isn't, for cost reasons. But if it were my bike, if I was head of design in Honda, I'd be like, stick a single-sided arm on that bad boy, and because I just want it to look cool. You know, my memories of the Hornet are, it was just a fun bike, had a bit of attitude to it, and yeah, it was a little bit badass, but you could also take it home to meet your mum, kind of thing. So I just wanted it to have that extra sort of spark to it, and a bit more attitude, a bit more bad boy attitude. And the Hornet that actually came out, nice looking bike, come out really cheap, really good value bike. Yeah. For me, it just lacked a little bit of spice. So it just, all I did was add a bit of chili pepper. That's all I did.
Yeah.
With the GPZ, a bike I always wanted. So I tend to get more fired up and more imaginative for bikes that I've really desired at one point or another.
Yeah.
So GPZ 900, wasn't that just the coolest bike back in the mid 80s?
The Top Gun bike, yeah.
The Top Gun bike, yeah. And the H2 engine, my God, you know, Kawasaki could do so much with that engine, and they are. So I've done quite a few concepts using that engine, and they always look great because I love that engine. I love the sound of it. I love the idea of it, you know, that we're making in this day and age of speed limits and dash cams and traffic cameras. Kawasaki have just said, sod it, let's just stick a supercharger in there. Yeah.
The chirp on it is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. I just I see Chopsy's bike and I just think, oh, I so want something like that. And despite how uncomfortable it is or how impractical it might be, superchargers. But I'm pretty old school. You know, I remember the days when the Japanese manufacturers all had turbocharged bikes. Mm-hmm. I even owned two Yamaha turbos, two of the things, and they were both a bit shit, to be honest. But hey, I had a turbocharged bike, and that's all that mattered. So things like that that I've desired at one point or another. They're the things that inspire me to create something. What would it look like if I was able to design it? If I was able to dictate to the manufacturers, this is what it should look like. That's where I come from.
Do you get feedback from the manufacturers at all? Like when they see your concept and they're like, we like that.
Do you know, on the whole, no. The only one I've had feedback from in a roundabout way was the Honda RC213V. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So that came out in 2015, and it was it turned out to be a V4 from Honda, and it was £120,000 or something ridiculous. But up until that point, until they revealed that, I'd been doing a load of concept visuals, artist impressions for MCN. Mm-hmm. So I'd done about, I think I'd done about sort of 3 stages of it over 3 different issues. And I remember when the first one I did, I got some feedback from someone who'd just spoken to the head of Honda, Mr. Honda. And he'd seen my rendering of the RCV. And apparently, I don't know how true this is, but apparently he said to his engineers, make it look like that,
Wow.
make it look like that. And when
Wow.
it came out, it didn't quite look like that. But you know, to have, like I say, I don't know how valid this is, but for, I'd like to think it was true, even if in the end it didn't quite look like what it was supposed to, what I
Yeah.
thought it was going to look like.
It's almost like validation, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think it's in their interest to be uh, acknowledging any of the stuff I do,
Mm,
because you know it kind of makes the stuff I do is fantasy.
mhm.
You know, it doesn't have to deal with the real world implications of Euro 5. It doesn't have to
Absolutely.
have a
Yeah.
massive catalytic exhaust. It doesn't have to, you know, be built to a price. Um, I could just put a set of Olins on there and some nice Brembo calipers,
Yeah.
and you know, put a tiny little mud guard on the back, a hugger. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to work in reality.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a
Um,
practical
exactly.
machine,
Yeah.
does it? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. It just has to
Gotcha.
look pretty for a
Yeah.
few seconds, a few minutes, or whatever. So I don't have those constraints. So in a lot of ways, I've got so much more freedom than the actual designers have got, and
Mm.
I can make stuff that isn't compromising either. So, um, for instance, I can make a sports bike really uncomfortable. You know, just with the aim to make it look good. I could make it really uncomfortable and impractical. But of course, they have to do it for real.
Mhm.
So yeah, I have the freedom, they don't. So it's kind of unfair, but I don't care.
Life's unfair, isn't it?
Yes.
Right, cheers for that one, Charlie. Next one, Matt Rowe Designs. This is so cool. Looking forward to seeing and hearing this one. My question. Recently, you've noticed people stealing or reusing your designs. Apart from your posts, what have you done to battle this? And is there any way we can help avoid it happening in the future? So this is very topical. This is
It is.
rife at the
Yeah.
moment for you, isn't it?
Yeah. To be honest, it's been that way for a few years. I mean, I've got a YouTube channel now
Yeah.
where I very, very occasionally put content on there. But for me, making a video just takes forever.
And me.
Yeah. Uh, but the whole reason behind the existence of that YouTube channel is because people was taking my images and making their own content out of it.
Yeah.
So they were making money off the back of my artwork, however much or little it was. And I don't know, it just got me really riled. I just thought, I'm not having this.
Mhm.
So it first kicked off a few years back. So I would message, this is typically what would happen. I would leave a comment and say, this is my artwork. You need to credit me or ask for permission. I'd get no response. Then I'd email them if they had an email address, and I'd either get no response or I'd get a message back saying, this isn't yours. How do you want to prove it's yours? And I wasn't going to get drawn into a long, protracted sort of email tennis argument. So I ended up sending off a load of takedown reports, reporting it to YouTube. And YouTube, you know, to be fair, they were fantastic. They would take stuff down within hours, and there was a few YouTubers who actually had so many strikes against them for using copyrighted material, i.e., my work. YouTube just closed the channel.
Wow.
And then suddenly those YouTubers who were previously not acknowledging comments, not replying to emails, or just being a bit rude on emails, they were begging me, "Oh, please retract your takedown reports, retract it, please, please. You know, promise never to do this again." And literally begging. And some of them I did actually say, "Okay, fair enough. I'll do this, but you need to ask me for consent in future, or just don't do it." Because these guys weren't just stealing from me; they were stealing from other artists as well. So some of the worst offenders, I would just leave them banned. Some of the guys who genuinely didn't know the rules, though they should do, working on, you know, being on YouTube. I gave them a second chance and they were back on there. But every now and then, I still have to do a little sweep through YouTube to see who's using my stuff. And, the occasional one, I don't mind. But if the majority of someone's video library is my content, then that's not on. So that got me really pissed off when I did that post just a few months ago. Because it was the BMW M1000 XR.
XR, yeah,
that's right. That come out. That pictures or there were rumors of it, and that render that I did for Motorrad magazine, I just typed it into YouTube, and it just came up everywhere.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, here we go again, So, load of takedowns later. I'm happy to do it. It takes me hours to do it, to go through it all. I'm happy to do it, but I'd rather not. And that's where we are with people stealing content. So what can other people do about it? If they see my stuff online without a credit in the caption, just leave a comment and say this belongs to Car Design.
And they can tag you as well, can't they? They can tag.
They can tag my channel. My official channel is Motor Candy. It's called Motor Candy, and tag me in that, or send me a DM on Instagram. And if that person is a serial stealer, then I'll just issue a takedown report. And if it's just the odd one or two, I tend to let it slide. If they've got other stuff on there, if it's not their main source of content, then I'm generally, life's too short to be worrying about stuff like that. If I got worked up on every single video that had my stuff without a credit, it would drive me insane. So I can't.
It's infuriating though, isn't it? Because as you said, the designs take a long time to do, and then. What annoys me is the videos take a long time to make, and then you see them used on other channels. And as you just said, I'm okay if I see my content being used by another channel, particularly if it's a smaller channel, and I'm like, no problem using the content. Just as you said, just give a credit. That's all. Fine. That's all we need. But what really irks me is when you look, and it's a massive channel, you're looking at a channel with 100, 200, 300,000 plus subscribers, and they're getting huge views. You just think, you utter bastards, right? Because you're just using. It's like when I watch YouTubers who just use the press pack material, that really fucks me off. Like on a new bike, the manufacturers send you the press pack, don't they, with all the shots and the videos and stuff in it. And there's a few people out there who just take that and then, whack it into their video and put a voice over the top. And you're like, it's not even your content, is it? It's just, that hacks me off. But I've had a couple that have just totally nicked an entire vid.
Really?
And used all the B-roll footage that I've used. They've used that time and time and time again through a video with a voiceover, and that's their vid. Yeah.
So what do you do in that instance when do you bother issuing a takedown, or?
I've got to admit that there's been two of late. The first one I just let slide because I just looked at it and thought it's getting big views. I'll leave that because hopefully it was people in my community that let me know anyway, you know, and I'm like, well, they've know straight away that's one of my videos. And I put a little watermark in the bottom corner of my vids now with my name on it. So it's like, right, okay. And then the second one, I just dropped them a line and said, look, just give us a credit for it. You know, I don't want you to lose this vid. I don't want to take your channel down, but just give me some credit on it. Just chuck it in the description. And they did. So I was like, right, fine.
Fair enough, yeah.
I'm happy with that.
I think the worst offenders are the ones who, I've started, pretty heavily watermarking my content, my stuff. Yeah. I think the worst offenders are the people who actually scrub out your watermark. They're the ones that I just go, no mercy.
Yeah. Because they're doing it knowingly,
Yeah, they're doing it knowingly, yeah. And that really boils my piss.
Yeah. I get
That really
that. I
bores my piss
understand
when
that.
they actively sort of cover up your watermark.
Mhm.
If you're using stuff and you forget to give a credit, fair enough, things happen. If you rectify it, it's all good. But when you're actively covering it up, then that becomes proper theft to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Right,
yeah,
Matt's got a second
send me a
question.
DM. Yeah, go on, fire away.
He said, second cheeky question. What software do you use for your designs, and will AI affect the way you work?
Oh, good
Now,
question.
AI has been brought up later on, I think. I think that's in Instagram. Someone brings up AI, but we can get into that now if you want.
That's a really good question. AI. What I actually started using AI myself just to see what all the fuss was about.
Yeah.
And I threw myself into it at Christmas, just gone. I was so ill over Christmas. Like many other people, I had some form of COVID.
Yeah.
And I just spent a week just sat trying to work out what AI was all about.
Yeah.
And I was pretty blown away by it, by what it was capable of. I wasn't blown away by my skills in using it, because there's quite a learning curve. You can get sort of little things right, but it's quite a lottery. And even now, for me, I've been using it for a few months now just to brainstorm. It's quite a lottery to what you're going to get. AI is really useful in if I ever get a creative block, I'll whack something into AI and see what it spits out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hit and miss. I have, on a recent job, I must have spent hours putting it through the AI mill, and it turned out I just wasted that time completely, because what it came out with from my instructions was just useless. It was useless. Yeah. It couldn't even inspire me to something else. So I reverted to my old traditional techniques of coming up with an image or getting inspiration for an image. And that just worked. So on occasion it's worked well for me to act as a starting point or to inspire me for something. And in other occasions it's just been useless and a complete waste of time. So that's where I'm at with AI. I think the AI technology is still in its infancy. It's still really young.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of way for it still to go. Like, it doesn't do text very well. It can do certain things well. It can do certain things not very well. And I think in that case you just rely upon what your own personal skill set.
Absolutely. It's
so
quite.
Sorry, what? Go on.
With AI, it's quite. I don't want to say worrying, because I don't want to be like that with AI. But to see where we're at now, and even how much AI's progressed, like ChatGTP, for example, how much that's progressed from the previous carnation to the current revision. It's a big jump. It's a really big jump. And you just think, we're at GTP 4, I think we're at the moment. You imagine what that's going to be like in 10 years' time, 15 years' time. And you're like, that is really... I mean, we can be at a staggering level of artificial intelligence in the space of a decade, where we're not just looking at doing pictures or coming up with some report that you need to write or a catchy title for a YouTube video. It could be all sorts of other things. AI, AI. I mean, that's just a wormhole we could delve down and probably never ever reappear from, isn't it? So we'll draw a discreet veil of that. What Matt was asking was, what software do you use for these designs? I
use AI software?
No, for actually coming up with the designs.
For coming up with the designs, 99% of the time I'll use Photoshop.
Really? Right. Okay.
99% of the time I use Photoshop, which it's a 2D program. It's not 3D. So I think I think the trick is to make it look like it's 3D, like it's a 3D render.
Jesus. So you're effectively painting that as a real 3D image.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I mean,
I thought you were rendering it on a 3D model.
No, I get that a lot. I get that a lot. What 3D package you use?
Yeah.
I don't. I've tried over the years to get a foot in the 3D door. And I've dabbled with Blender, Cinema 4D, SketchUp, Fusion 360. And I don't know what it is. Maybe I've just got a really short attention span. But I'll try something for a few months, and my latest effort, I made a donut. Everyone starts with a donut in Blender, and I've really enjoyed it. But then, I don't know, I just found the learning curve like really steep. So I do it, and then I go, what's the next step? And then I get frustrated because the YouTube video I was using for a tutorial didn't have my particular version of that software or whatever. And it would just wind me up. And I'd end up just doing it in Photoshop. I'd do in Photoshop in 5 minutes what would take me hours to do in 3D. Well,
gotcha.
One day I will get this 3D nailed, because I've seen some amazing stuff in 3D where you can view the bike from, all different angles. And but right now I can get the most realistic version just using Photoshop. And I'll just try and imagine. The key to getting a good realistic image in Photoshop is it's all about highlights. It's all about lighting and highlights, and nicking the best bits from donor bikes, because obviously I don't draw the whole thing from scratch, because that would just be insane.
Right.
That would just take too long. But I have a library of stuff which I can tap into, which I can use. So it's like I'll remix certain bikes. I'll take a bit off this bike and a bit off that bike, but there'll be bits that don't exist. I remember doing, what was it? It was a new Ducati for MCN, and I think it was either the Diavel or it was the Panigale. I can't remember which. But the wheel that I was trying to create didn't exist. So I had to draw this wheel from scratch, from nothing. And it just took me a day to draw one wheel.
Really?
And yeah, and when you're on a deadline, spending almost a day to do a wheel is not a good, efficient use of your time. But since then, I do have other programs that I might use. Like I might use the odd 3D program just to help me with lighting and shadows and stuff like that. I did a render of it was a Norton for Classic Bike magazine years ago, and it was a water-cooled Norton, and the thing didn't exist, so there was no reference material. All that existed was a sort of line drawing, like a really, really basic line drawing. So I had to create that I created the shell of that in 3D just to get all the shadows right, and then I rendered it in Photoshop, and it looked pretty good, I think. In the end, it looked like a real sort of water-cooled block of an engine that had never existed before. So I was quite pleased with that one.
How long is a piece of string? But let's just say as an average, how long are we talking to come up with one of these designs from concept to the finished product for you?
Good question. They used to take anything from 3 days, 2 to 3 days, to a week, and they've always taken that long.
Yeah.
When I first started doing these back in 15 years ago, first started doing these in 2007. They used to take me about 3 days, and as time went on, I used to think, yeah, I'll get quicker at this. As I'm getting more experienced and learning the shortcuts and having all this library of stuff, it'll take me 2 days, and then I'll get it down to 1 day. I used to tell my wife, yeah, I'll get it down to 1 day. And I never do. I never do it in 1 day. It always takes me about 3 days, if not more. I think it's like when you earn more, don't you? So you say you're earning 20 grand 1 year, and then the next year you earn 50 grand. You go, wow, I've got all this money. And you think, how am I going to spend it? I'm never going to spend all this. But
you never have the extra money, do you?
No, you never have that. Actually, you just match. You match your spending to your salary, don't you? It's like I match my the time I take to the time I've got. Yeah, which is really bad because I think I should be doing these quicker, but I like to sort of get things as good as I can possibly get them.
Yeah, I totally
right
get
up
that.
to the deadline.
Yeah, I totally get that. With Photoshop, have you tried the new beta version with AI in it?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
It's nuts, isn't it?
It's absolutely crazy.
Nuts. So, obviously you've used it. I use an AI program called Midjourney. It's the most popular one, I think. There's another one called Stable Diffusion, which has got a lot more control, but I don't have the necessary hardware to use it. So I use something called Midjourney. So what works really well, not necessarily for bikes, but for anything else, is creating something in Midjourney and then expanding upon that. So Midjourney is really good at doing people, for instance. So do a portrait of a bearded man, for instance. And it's really hard to get the bearded man to sit on one side of the frame. He always ends up sitting in the middle. And so it's really bad for that. However, once you've got your image of the bearded man, you can take it into Photoshop and you can do your generative fill on the other side. So yeah, it's incredible. So it's just using it as a tool. And I think that stands for AI as a whole. For me, I like to see it as a tool as opposed to something that's going to threaten my very existence as a motorcycle visualizer. Or, I know loads of photographers. It's never going to replace them as photographers. An AI cannot photograph your sister's wedding. It just can't do that. It can generate images of a wedding, but it can't do them of your sister's wedding. Not that your sister's getting married or that you even have a sister. I don't know.
Don't talk about my sister.
So there was a really talented photographer that I used to work on a photography magazine, and I saw his work and I said, oh, we've got to feature this guy. He's brilliant. So we featured him. I've started following on Facebook and stuff like that. And he's quite opinionated about AI. He absolutely hates it. And he thinks it's stealing his job and all this stuff. And I tried to make him see another point of view, that he should see it as a tool. So if he's got a fashion shoot lined up, why not use AI to brainstorm some ideas for that fashion shoot, or maybe do a test shoot using AI? But he was having none of it. He just absolutely hates it. Whereas there's another set of photographers who are embracing AI and thinking, yeah, I could really use this as part of my arsenal of tools to get a photo shoot done. And they're the guys I think are using AI properly. They're not being threatened by it. And it's not AI itself that's going to take your job. It's the person who's using AI that's going to take your job.
Totally.
So you may as well find out what it's all about. And see how it can help you, because it's, the genie's out of the bottle now, isn't it?
Totally. And if you're already like at the top of or in the top tier of whatever your specialism is, and a new product, a new tool becomes available, especially to the masses, which can make your job more attainable for the common person, like someone that hasn't got that creative artistic eye for photography. Well, if AI can up their level to somewhere around that, I think if you, as you said, if you don't adapt, if you don't learn to utilize that new tool, then eventually you're going to get overtaken, aren't you? So if you want to stay at the top, you have to.
You have to know this stuff, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to utilize everything that's out there, for sure.
I should be annoyed more than most, I think, about AI, because, what I do is I imagine something that doesn't exist, and I show you what this thing might look like.
Yeah.
So AI can now do that with, if you got access to the internet and a keyboard, Bob's your uncle. You can do that to your heart's content. You could do what I do. Maybe even do it better if you learn, how the techniques behind it all. But what was I talking about?
Using AI into your skill set.
Using AI into your skill set. It's here to stay. So just use it, and rather than seeing it as the enemy. When was the last time you used a map?
Yeah, I know.
An actual map.
Yeah, and I used to scorn GPS because I was like, I like the map. Exactly,
because GPS is like it's like switching your brain off and just blindly following it, aren't you?
And that's what I do now.
But it just takes the strain out of touring, doesn't it? I've still got memories of being in France in the rain, trying to read a map at night with the light from my headlight.
Yeah.
Your map's just getting really soggy, and your girlfriend's getting really annoyed. How are we still lost? How are we still 70 miles from the hotel? Kind of thing.
With your map, turning it around.
Yeah. You're on the side of the autoroute and the wind's blowing.
Where am I? Where am I on this map?
And it's just not a good place to be. So I just mentioned that because I found a load of old maps of mine in the garage the other day. I thought, gosh, they're still up there in a little box. Maybe one day I'll use them, but
I still like to like. No. I use maps in the modern way now. So like Google Maps, or I use Kalimoto all the time on the bike. So you can have the map set to terrain, and I still like to like zoom out on the map and have a look around and go, well, that looks a nice squiggly road, or that looks really nice and hilly or foresty. So you just drop a pin and reroute your route through there and go and have a look and see what it's like. But I can't remember the last time I physically had a paper map out in front of me. It's been a long time since I've done that.
Yeah. Gosh.
Right. Next one, Mr. Giggles.
Question.
Cheers for that, Matt. Thanks for that. Mr. Giggles, in terms of a question, does Carr get many of these made for his own enjoyment or by punters?
Do I get any of them made for my own enjoyment? What the concepts?
Yeah, I mean, your conceptual designs. I think more, like as a punter, has someone ever seen your design and gone, I like that. I want that made for me, that you know of?
Yeah. I think quite a few people have been so inspired by something they've seen that I've penned. Is that the word? Visualized. They've gone off and made their own version of it. And I find that really rewarding. I find that really nice. It's nice when they then show me a picture of it after the fact, and they go, I really liked what you did. I made it. I'll be like, wow, fair play, good job.
Awesome. Yeah, you inspired me to do this.
Yeah, for me, it's just a collection of pixels that I thought looked nice. But if someone else thought that collection of pixels looked nice enough for them to use as an inspiration, great. And it happens a lot with paint jobs as well. Paint jobs as well as actual motorbikes. There was one today, actually. Someone messaged me and said, where can I buy the headlights for this M1000R? I was like, well, actually, you can buy them. It's not just a digital image. And I think it's a French company are doing this headlight conversion for an M1000. So it's got like twin headlights.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Did you know about that when you came up with the design, or have they done it because of your design?
No, they've done it because of my design.
Wow.
And I thought that was really cool. And they sent me images of it afterwards and said, oh, we were inspired and we did this. So they're taking headlights. I think they're off a Panigale or something like that,
Uh-huh.
and they've given the S1000R twin headlights, so it's more like the S1000RR, but still a naked bike. So I thought that was really cool.
Man,
And I
that's
see,
awesome.
and I see paint jobs as well that I've created appear on bikes, like fire blades and stuff, fire blades with retro paint jobs, and I don't know if it was coincidental, but the World Superbike Kawasaki with the with that old ZX8 paint job, ZX8R paint job. It was quite coincidental that I did just that just a few months earlier, and then it appeared
There's
on the
no
World
way they
Superbike.
would nick that. No way.
No, I like Kawasaki. Kawasaki, cool. But yeah, I see that kind of stuff all the time, and it's really nice if my work inspires someone. And I get that when people they'll message me and say, "I really like this render. Can I use it as a paint job on my bike?" I go, "Yeah, of course." It's really good that they feel like I own it, which I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I might own that particular image, so you shouldn't really be using it on YouTube without crediting the source. But if they want to use it and paint their own bike with it, yeah, by all means. The only condition is send me a picture of it afterwards so I can show everyone. I love all that. Yeah.
Awesome. Right. Cheers for that one, Mr. Giggles. Next one, Nathan Moore. I've been looking at Car's interpretation of the BMW M1000XR and the Lamborghini-inspired Ducati and was blown away. Awesome work. My question for both of you, totally unrelated. If someone gave you an elephant and you couldn't get rid of it, what would you do with it? Sorry, mate, I don't pre-read the Patreon questions. Right. You get an elephant.
Yeah.
And you can't get rid of it. What are you going to do with the elephant?
What a great question. I love it. What are you
It's a
going to do with the
unique
elephant?
question, Carl.
Yeah. Why don't you go first and try to answer this?
Thanks. Right, elephant. Couldn't get rid of it. What would you do with it? What would be cool to do with an elephant?
Is it living in your house?
You'd kind of need a big house, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Can you talk about the elephant in the room?
Very good. See what you did there. I would like to sit on top and ride the elephant as like a very large, totally impractical and slow motorcycle.
Yeah.
And then,
okay, I'm picturing that now. That's one for AI to come up with later.
I definitely need to see that. Yeah.
Elephant.
What else could you do with an elephant?
That's a lot of clearing up to do, isn't it? And
You'd have lovely roses.
I've got so many questions. Like, is it a big elephant? Is it a little one?
But even a wee elephant's quite a big animal, isn't it?
That's true, isn't it? Yeah.
Did you think you'd be discussing this evening, Carl?
I never thought I'd be talking about elephants over the internet with you today. But what would I do with it? I need to come up with something, because what would I do with it? I'd befriend it. I'd have it as I've got a terrible memory, so I'd use that, because an elephant never forgets, does it?
That's good. That is good.
So it would serve as my memory.
But then how is it going to tell you? Because it can't speak. It's not like it can go, Car, you've got the dentist tomorrow at 4.
Yeah, I would really like to learn another language.
Elephant.
An elephant could be it. But elephants elephants are emotional creatures, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah.
Is it them and dolphins?
Dolphins, that's right, yeah.
They have, is it the prefrontal cortex, which is similar to human, which means they can feel empathy. There's only a few that we know of. There's only a few animals on the planet, including us, that have that part of the brain that allows them to feel empathy, I think. Well, that's a Joe Rogan fact. I've heard him talk about it.
Dogs have got to come into that as well, haven't they?
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Although a lot of the time my dog just looks at me like it really couldn't care less.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Aren't you glad though that elephants or dogs can't actually speak? I mean, the things they could have seen.
Well, that is a point.
The things my cat has seen, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
it
don't want the
doesn't.
cat talking about
No, no.
it. And we'll leave
You can
that
tell
there.
other cats, but just yeah,
Do the other cats in the neighborhood look at you?
yeah, yeah. Best to keep away from that
Yeah,
human.
we know
You
about
just
you. We
yeah.
know what you did. Right, cheers
So
for that
yeah,
one, Nathan.
I would
You're
I
not
would
going
I
to
would
get.
use it as a memory bank because they're good with that kind of thing.
I think that's all you're going to get from us on that one, Nathan.
Yeah,
Good question. That's a unique one. I haven't been asked that yet.
I like it.
Right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 more left on Patreon, so
Go for
we've
it.
got about 15 minutes
No,
before
go
it's
for it.
2
Go for it.
hours. Right,
Go
let's
for
try
it.
and batter through. First one, Debbie Clegg. Awesome to have Bru Time back. Question 1, what led you into this area of design, Car? We kind of covered that near the start, didn't we?
It's a valid question. What led me to this area of design? I just enjoyed creating images of motorcycles. And I think even as a kid at school, I just wanted to draw pictures. So design, yeah, I can design, but I've really enjoyed creating things that don't exist yet and imagining things that don't exist, or imagining what something might look like if it had this on it or different paint job or whatever. So, and that's very different to what I'm traditionally trained to do, which is design, branding, and magazines and leaflets and all that stuff. So it's quite different. It's more yeah. It's just more sort of it's visualizing. That's what it is. It's a term I've come up with myself. I'm a motorcycle visualizer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the question again? What made me go into that?
Yeah. What led you into that area of design?
I just found it more rewarding, more satisfying to do, and I quite like being unique in that way, just following what I do, what I like, what I enjoy doing. There are loads of good magazines. There's so many brilliant magazine designers out there. I consider myself very average, and there's so many good motorcycle designers as well. So amazing motorcycle designers. But I look at the stuff that comes out in the showroom, and I think, oh, I wish that had that instead, or I wish that looked like that. Or why are all bikes nowadays boring? Why do they all look boring compared to bikes from the 80s or the 90s when they had all these fancy paint jobs? And now they look like fridges, don't they?
Yeah.
Or they're all like single colors, or where's the excitement gone in how a bike looks? Because we all know motorbikes are like, they're super fast now. They all make stupid amounts of power to the point where we need electronic rider aids to control them. It wasn't that long ago when bikes were making 100 horsepower and you go, wow, that's a lot of power.
Yeah.
Or that does 120 miles an hour, that bike. That's amazing. Yeah. And then it starts to weave a little bit. And now bikes are doing 100 miles an hour in first gear.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So what bikes now, what satisfaction we get from bikes now isn't just the riding of them. It's the visual appeal of them, isn't it? It's the sort of, it's lifting that garage door in the morning and just looking at your bike and no intention to go anywhere. You just want to look at it. Or you just want to start it up and just walk around it, or when you're parked up in a lay-by, you're just looking at your bike thinking, oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in the aesthetics of things and in how things look. And I think that's a real important part of owning a motorcycle. And I feel like some of the manufacturers have forgotten that, or they lose sight of that when it comes to building these things. And maybe it just gets lost. I don't know. Maybe it just gets lost in the box ticking exercise. When they've had to, when they've done a load of market research and it has to have this feature and that feature and has to do this and do that, and somewhere along the line they've forgotten that actually it needs to look bloody beautiful as well.
Yeah. Do you think they're just trying to play this safe game and appeal to as broad a mass market as possible, rather than, I don't know, rather than just going down one sort of niche direction.
I think there's definitely an element of that, and you see it in the film industry. You know, when you have sequel after sequel after sequel of a film. With motorbikes, it's much the same. You have a new version of the same motorbike, which is slightly lighter, slightly faster, slightly more powerful, slightly more rider aid, slightly more electronics, a bit more on the price. And we don't often get something that's completely fresh, completely new, do we? And I wish we did. Suzuki were really good at doing that back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, they were really good at experimenting with coming out with bikes that would just shock you, and it would be different. It would be so aesthetically pleasing to look at. You, and they were really brave and bold. You know, going back to things like the Katana in the early 80s, you'd be like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
But that sort of the design language of that bike just, you know, it stayed with Suzuki for so long. You know, had a real effect over the entire lineup for decades. Where are the Katanas of today? Where are the Hayabusas of today? Where are the TL1000s of today? You know, where are the RGVs of today?
Do you think, like, to me, it's MV Augusta. They seem to be the one manufacturer which, to me, just seem, design-wise, they just seem to be unique compared to the other bikes out there. I mean, what, as a designer, as someone that's trained in that world, what do you think about that? Because for me, MV Augusta is, I don't think there's any other bikes out there that look the way they do.
They definitely have their own language, don't they? And the intricacy involved in making those bikes is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And I think in a roundabout way of me saying that's amazing, I can't improve on that, is borne out by the fact that I've never redesigned an MV. I've never remixed an MV Augusta of any sort, because I look at them and I just think there's no way on earth I could improve on that. You know, even in my fantasy head, without all the typical constraints of making it road legal and stuff. I just can't, because they look incredible. The tail unit is, I think, MV Augustas are one of the few bikes I think look even better from the back than they do from the front.
Yeah, totally.
No,
totally.
those tail pieces are just wow. It's funny, the guy who designed MV Augustas for a long time, Adrian Morton, actually follows me. We follow each other on Instagram, which I think is really cool. And I've tried to nail him down for an interview, but he's a busy man nowadays, you know, running a separate business, running his own business. And he's, you know, such a talented guy. And I remember him saying something to me about, he asked me about the tail unit on the MV, because I think I showed some footage of an MV at a bike show or something, and he just commented on it. And it was something that he specifically would. I got the impression that was what he focused on a lot. Focused a lot of his energy on was the tail unit. Yeah. And but the whole things just look amazing, don't they? All of them, they look amazing. I just wish it would be great if some of the thousands went as well as they look, though.
Yes. Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah.
The triples, the 800s, amazing, but the thousands, they don't feel quite finished to actually ride for me.
The newer ones are a lot better, better. I used to think, like, the previous versions of the thousands, to me, they were just like, this thing should be so much better than it actually is. It should be so much faster than it actually is. They were all like massively high rev machines. Nothing happened until you got it well north of 9 into the 10,000 revs. And then it was just insanity. Then the thing just went, you know, into orbit. But the latest versions, I took one out about a year ago, I did something with another YouTuber, Lamb Chops, and we rode them. We rode them up to like Whitby and around Whitby and back. Two different ones, 800 and 1,000, and they were much more usable. You know,
Yeah.
they were actually fun to ride on the road. The 1,000 was actually fun to ride on the road. You know, it's still not as probably not as responsive as some other 1,000s for road riding, you know, within reason, within road limits ish. But it wasn't the wind it up to 9,000-10,000 revs and then hang on for dear life. There was some grunt low down there.
Yeah. That was exactly my experience as well. The first MV I rode was the MV F4750, and then shortly afterwards I rode the 1,000. It was the 312. It was the most powerful bike on the planet at the time. And it was horrendous. I remember we were all at Buntingthorpe Runway and we were doing these top speed runs and quarter mile times. There was like 8 of us from the magazine and we had all these different bikes. And none of us could launch the 312, the MV. We couldn't launch it. It would either bog down or it would be nothing and then it'd try and spit you off.
Yeah.
They would try and loop, and it was just horrendous. And I remember taking the same bike to Germany. We rode it to Germany with I think it was a Kawasaki ZZR 1400 as well, something else crazy fast on the Autobahn. And I remember following the van, trying to get some tracking photography on the MV, and I just couldn't hold a steady throttle with it. It just wouldn't. The fuel injection was awful.
Yeah.
And then fast forward a few years it was only a couple of years ago. I rode an MV Brutale 1,000, expecting it to be all sorted now because all that happened like 15 years ago. It was the same thing. It just wouldn't hold a steady throttle, and there was no power low down. It was all at the top, and this was a naked bike, and it was just horrible. I couldn't get off it fast enough. It looked amazing though.
That's what we took out. Was it last year? I think it was last year. Yeah, last year. Yeah. We took out the 1,000 Brutale and then the 800. Yeah, 800.
Yeah.
And yeah, I preferred the 800, I've got to say, but Chops preferred the 1,000. But the 1,000 was definitely usable compared to what it used to be. It was all right. It was all right. I always used to think with the MVs, to me, I looked at them and they were the conceptual bikes that had just been turned into a reality. Yeah. You know, when I looked at them, it was just like, that's what a bike should look like. Right. Beautiful.
Yeah. That's what we were talking. I mentioned earlier, you know, why don't they just build this like this? And I'm still waiting for MV to build 1,000cc version of the triple. You know, the 800. Do a 1,000 or 1,100 version of that triple that they've got, because the engine's amazing. And it would just.
Why do you think
it would just be such a great bike? So they should build that. Just a triple. Just build a triple. A big litre triple. Yeah. Just
You've got the inner. You know the geezer that used to design them. Come on.
Used to design them.
Right. Cheers for that first one, Debbie. She's got a second question. Do you ever have blank days? If so, what gets you back on course?
Oh, God, yes, definitely. Yes, blank days. And I have, yeah, I think most creatives do. They have that block. And what do I do to get out of it? I go out for a walk. I go to the gym. I'll have a play in AI, see if that triggers anything. If it doesn't, then I just keep plugging away until something comes. But yeah, definitely have blank days where, and I also have days where I think, oh yeah, this will be easy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Yeah, it's all planned out in my head. It'll be easy, straightforward. And you go to do it and you think, shit, that's not working, or that's not, it's not hitting the right notes for me, that. And I thought this would be easy and it's not. So yeah, you get days like that as well, where it just doesn't go to plan. Sometimes it does go to plan as well. But it's very rare when something just comes together so beautifully. But it does happen in that, and that's like, yeah.
I find I'm discovering that I work better under pressure. So, like, you know, I always try to have a video up on YouTube for Friday afternoon for the public. I try to get it up there by Thursday for, you know, my Patreon lot. So I always find this point now that we're at, sort of the Tuesday night, Wednesday night, that's when I am most productive, because it's like, I've got to get this done. So I'll work into the small hours. I'll work till 4 or 5 in the morning. And that's when I find I become really productive, because during the day, there's so many distractions going on. You know, emails coming in, social media, bing, bing, bing on your phone, WhatsApps, all this sort of stuff. Just, you know, I get nothing done during the day. It really is evening and late night that I work, really.
Yeah. No, I totally get it, and I'm very relatable. There was a time when I would work through the night to meet a deadline, and you know, my life used to be driven by deadlines. You know, a monthly deadline. There's nothing will get you more disciplined than a deadline, a regular deadline. I would always feel so much sympathy for the MCM boys, because, you know, they've got this. They've always got a week, you know, a weekly deadline, a daily deadline in a lot of cases. Their press day would be a Monday night to go to press and then come out for the Wednesday. On a monthly magazine, it would be, you know, obviously every month, but you'd have to, you couldn't just cram it all in the last few days. You'd have to space it out, otherwise you'd never get it out. So that helped me in a sort of discipline scope. It would help. Yeah, it would help me plan stuff to a degree. But when you're your own boss, you know, things slip, don't they? And you think, I've got more time to do this, or I'll do this over the weekend, or, you know, and nowadays I can't work through the night like I used to. I'd rather go to sleep early and get up early when the phone's not pinging, like you say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do have blank days for sure.
I think everybody does, don't they? Yeah, for sure. Right, cheers for that one, Debs. Next one, Patrick Collum. Super interesting guest, and hope you're both well. Looking forward to the resumption of the podcast. Thank you very much. My first question to both. Middleweight sports bikes have disappeared apart from the MV800 and Ducati V2. Do you think that there's still a hankering out there for sports-focused machines that aren't license risking in first gear, whilst retaining trackability, unlike, say, the modern R7? Oh, sorry, my watch is talking to me. That's quite topical at the moment. The return of the middleweight sports bikes. Well, it's happening, isn't it? They're coming back.
They do seem to be making a bit of a comeback, don't they? You know, the new Kawasaki ZX6. Which is, you know, only a small update, but the fact that it's back in the UK after a couple of years out, you know, it can only be a good thing. In other parts of the world, 600s never really went away, though. You know, they were still, the CBR was still being built. The GSXR 600 was still around. The R6 is still around, kind of, in track-only form. But, you know, in isolation, they're absolutely fantastic bikes. And even when you compare them to their bigger brothers, you know, the Lita sports bikes, they still have a role to play, because they really help you learn how to ride. They really teach you best riding techniques. They teach you how to be in the right gear. They don't have that much power that it's intimidating. They're not overloaded with electronics because they don't need it. So, you know, the last 600 I rode that I've really enjoyed was the R6. What a fantastic bike that was. Absolutely fantastic bike. It was a press test bike, which I had for 2 years. And I was so close to buying it afterwards. I didn't want it to go back. It was such a good bike. So I think there's still a place for 600s, sporty 600s. I'd like to see them come back. And the good thing about the ZX6 now that's come back, there's clear space between that and the 1000. You know, the 1000 makes 200 horsepower. It's got all the electronic gadgets. It's built for racing. You know, it's built to win world superbikes. Yeah. A 600 has the same amount of pistons, takes the same amount of research to and resource to build. However, it doesn't need all the electronics. And there's like £7,000 between the 600 and the 1,000, which is fantastic. And whereas before they would be priced fairly similarly, now there's that gap. So you get the looks of a sports bike, but still with loads of performance, and you get a true riding experience which isn't masked by electronics and being intimidated by 200 horsepower, and the threat of a high side and all the rest of it. And I think a lot of people would get more out of 600. I mean, certainly in the right hands, they're much faster on track, than 1,000 can be. An experienced rider on a 600 will always go quicker than your average rider, a normal rider on 1,000. Always.
Yeah, but do you think, like, I look at it now and just think people aren't put off by the figures on big bikes anymore. People aren't threatened by 200 brake horsepower, 160 Newton meters of torque, 180 Newton meters of torque. They don't look at that and go, holy shit, how am I going to get hold of that? Because, as you just said, because they're mollycoddled by the electronics. So now it's like, it's a figures game now, isn't it? It's just people are buying bikes based on what's got the biggest BHP, what's got the biggest torque, all this sort of stuff, which is such a shame, as you said, because the 600 is the better bike to actually ride and to be involved with. Yeah.
I kind of lost a little bit of interest in superbikes, in 1,000cc superbikes, probably about 10 years ago. I remember the moment that I lost a little bit of interest. I was riding, I took an S1000RR around Rockingham. It was a circuit I knew really well, and my friend, who was the editor of the mag at the time, said, "Here you go, take the keys to this S1000RR." I wasn't that interested, but I did anyway. And it was exactly the experience I thought it was going to be. It was so good. It was so fast. It was so good. But I knew it wasn't me riding that bike.
Yeah.
It wasn't me going around that circuit that quickly. It was that package of, all the technology that was in that bike that was going around. And I don't know, it took away from the experience a little bit for me, I think. And it wasn't so much, my riding experience that took me around that circuit. It was the gadgets that did it. And I just thought, yeah, it's great. And I'm impressed by it from a technical point of view, but it's not something I would feel like I needed to own. So I'm quite happy with riding a GSXR 1000, a 2006 GSXR 1000, a 2015 200 V4. They both make about the same power. They both make about 160, 165 horsepower, but they deliver that power in such a different way.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I think a lot of people have cottoned on to that now, that, 200 horsepower doesn't necessarily mean the same 200 horsepower in another bike. So for instance, the 200 horsepower in that MV Augusta that we talked about, where all the power's at the top, is very different to the 200 horsepower that's in the latest BMW M1000. It's a very different tasting 200 horsepower. That the BMW 200 horsepower is just usable at any rev. I don't know if you've ridden one yet, but it's not the new amazing one. No. It's an amazing engine, and they've done such a good job on that bike. It pulls from really low down, all the way up to the top, and it's how a 1,000cc bike should make you feel. It should pull your arms out your sockets, at any speed, and that does it. So yeah, there's very different ways of tasting, of skinning a cat, isn't there?
Definitely. I'm getting my round the world Jigsaw back on the road. So
yes, I read that. Yeah.
Within the next couple of months, she should be back on the road, and I cannot wait to ride her, because she's got no gadgets, none. There's no traction control. There's not even ABS on it. There's nothing. And she was a 2011 GSXR 1000. I can't wait. Just can't wait to ride it again.
What great bikes they are. Have you got a decat? Decat on
Not
your
on
bike?
not on that one. I think the one previously was decatted, but not
Yeah,
that one. In fact,
yeah,
what am I talking about? Yeah, that one is decatted.
yeah.
I had to
Is
decat
it?
it to get it in Africa because they don't do unleaded fuel. They only
Oh,
do
right.
leaded. So you can't run
Oh,
leaded
okay.
fuel through a decat apparently.
Yeah,
Yeah, through the
but
catalytic converter.
they're so nice when they unleash so much more mid
Yeah,
range, don't they? When you
yeah,
decat those things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. The one I had
GSXR
previously
1000.
was Yoshi boxed as well, and
All right.
oh, it was phenomenal. I took that round the Nürburgring, actually behind my mate that owns your 2004 R1. I think you had it at PB Mag,
Oh yes.
red and
Yeah.
white R1 that you used to have,
Yeah. Yeah.
2004. My mate Jimbo bought that. He still got it. It's his
No.
it's his track bike now. But we took it to the
Fantastic.
Nürburgring with that Gixxer that I had. Holy it. Just it was just insanity. It's the fastest I think I've ever ridden in my life, but it was amazing. And
Yeah.
then the next day I thought I was invincible and I threw it off a mountain and myself in
Oh,
Germany. So
ouch.
that was the end of that bike.
Oh. So
But
hang
yeah,
on, your mate bought my old bike.
yeah, he bought your
Wow.
I think it was 2004 red and white
2004. Yeah,
R1.
yeah, yeah. Speed
Yeah,
block R1.
yeah.
Just talking about that yesterday. You're
Yeah,
just
he
talking about
still
it
got
yesterday
it. Still got
to my
it.
wife. Yeah.
He
He was
messaged
asking
me, he
me.
WhatsApped me yesterday, I think it was, when he saw you were coming on the podcast, and he was like, "I've still got his bike."
Brilliant. Oh, that's really nice to hear. It's still
Oh
going.
yeah, he
Great.
loves it. He
Yeah.
loves it. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
had many good mile on that bike.
Yeah. I
Beautiful.
remember did it have a Max it had a Maxton shock on it, didn't it?
I
Had a
think so.
Maxton shock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It did.
Yeah. And a
Yeah,
really nice paint job.
beautiful paint job. Absolutely stunning. It was. Still is.
Oh, good. Well, I'm pleased to hear it's still being ridden. Still on the
Um,
roads.
right, mate. We've gone by 2 hours. Have
That's
you
fine.
got any
Yeah,
time?
we're all
You
right.
okay?
Uh I've just got dinner on. I think it's probably about half an hour away by the
Cool.
sounds of it. So
Right.
yeah,
Well,
we've got a bit of time. We can crack on if you want.
okay, mate. We'll go through the last three questions then
Yeah.
on Patreon. Thank you very much for that one, Debs. Oh no, that was Patrick.
No,
That was his first
Patrick.
question. Second question from Patrick to both. What bike, just as a tribute in terms of style, modern snatching like the current Katana does to the GSXS 1000S, or as a complete modern ground-up interpretation, would you like to see a return to production, and why? Would you change anything for modern tech, or go more stripped back? So, just as a tribute in terms of the modern Katana does to the GSXS 1000S. Ah, right, okay. What bike? So, do you understand that then? What he's
I
saying?
think
Which
so.
bike, just as a tribute, or
Just
a
as a
complete
tribute.
modern ground-up interpretation?
Oh, can we only choose one? There's so
Go on
many,
then. Go on then.
isn't there?
Let's say
There's
your
so
top
many.
two then.
Can we bring two strokes back?
Absolutely. I've never ridden one, but all I hear is
No.
that they're the dogs. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Probably two bikes. Two bikes. Okay. The RD 500.
Mhm.
Okay. Came out in 1984.
Yeah.
It was a V4 two-stroke from Yamaha. It was a race rep, and always wanted one. Oh, came so close to buying one with my redundancy money. But the bike I went to see was horrible. It was just turned out to be horrible, and I rode it. And I don't know if it was a bad example or what, but I took it out for a little test ride, and it was just horrendous. I thought I was going to die. Came to a roundabout, and I didn't think I was going to make it round. and the guy wanted 4.5 grand for it. And you know, if I actually bought that bike, then it would be worth about 15 grand now.
Oh,
Because they've gone up in value so much. But you know, I wanted a bike to ride, and
yeah.
that wasn't it. And that really, I don't know if it was a case of never meet your heroes or what, but it just didn't work. Just didn't work for her. So I'd love to see a modern version of that. I think Yamaha could do just an amazing job with it. And it was one of the first concept bikes that I ever did, the RD 500. Did that in 2007. And I've reinvented it. Every few years, I reinvent it. I refresh it. So I must have done about 4 versions of that bike. But I absolutely love it, and I'd love them to bring it back. So yeah, that would be one of my two.
Yep.
The second one that I'd love to see come back is the Honda RC30.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'd love them to bring it back. A V4 sports bike from Honda that we could afford, right? Nothing that costs 120 grand, please, Honda. That would just be amazing. I'm baffled as to why Aprilia and Ducati can make a V4 sports bike and sell it to the masses for under 20 grand. Why do Honda have to build one and add another 100 grand on top of that?
Yeah, exactly.
We thought it was coming for so long. We thought, yeah, they're going to build this V4 Sport. They're going to build it. They're going to build it. And they did build it, but they may as well not have built it.
It's totally impractical for everybody, isn't it?
It's beyond the reach of most mortals, isn't it, at that price point? So I'd love them to build a affordable V4 750 sports bike. It doesn't have to be an RC30. It could be a really cool, VFR.
Mm.
So what about
I'm
you?
very simple. I'm very simple. I just want the GSXR to come back. I just want the GSXR back. Yeah. Just bring it back. Can't believe it's gone now. It's like,
it doesn't really exist at all, does it? In the lineup,
they said they're not making it at all anymore.
Yeah,
and you're just like, surely you can't do that. Like,
yeah,
the GSXR was the reason I got into bikes. It's like,
it's crazy, isn't it? That they spent, what is it, 35 years, 1985. So 33 years building up. My maths is terrible. But they spent decades building up that GSXR brand. And then almost overnight, it's just gone.
Yeah.
It's just gone, isn't it?
Yeah. It's almost like I just thought to myself, nah, they can't. There must be another one coming out next year, but apparently not.
Yeah. I'd like to think that they'd bring it back in some form. I don't know. I think it's unlikely, but why? It just seems like a terrible waste, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Is there a 125? Is there even a GSXR 125?
Do you know? Yes, I think there is still the 125. Yeah, 44 Teeth. I've done some stuff on them, haven't they? I think there is still the 125 for sure.
Yeah, because they rode it at the 24-hour race, didn't they?
Yeah.
Which I raced against. My team were on a Yamaha R125, and 44 Teeth boys passed me quite a few times. But
Barron's rapid as now, isn't he, Chris?
Yeah.
Jeez, he's proper fast. Yeah.
So those guys are they've done so well. Barron was YouTuber, wasn't he?
Yeah,
quite a prominent YouTuber.
Baron Von Grumble, yeah.
And Al Fagan comes from magazine background, magazine heritage. So I've known Al from his magazine days, but he's made that transition into video and YouTubing, being a YouTuber, and he's brilliant at it. Absolutely brilliant at it. He's got the personality. He's got the attitude. And funny guy. And what a good team they make.
I think they've brought like the bad boy sort of feeling. They've given it a wash and put some decent clothing onto it and done it up a little bit so it appeals to the masses. But they have that bad boy feeling that the early sort of bike press had, the bike press in the 80s, 90s, the fast bike mags when they were just
exactly
careering down the streets doing wheelies. They've brought that into a digital format that fits where we're at the moment. And I think they were probably the first to address that, certainly in the UK. I think they were the first to go for not a magazine format on YouTube, but let's let's sort of focus on YouTube and just bring this. Let's produce some sort of magazine style content on YouTube and bring it to the masses. And I think they did that before anybody else.
I think the beauty of
I think they're the best out there, personally.
Yeah, I think the beauty of YouTubers, you have to be real to yourself, don't you? If there's any you can't really fake it. You know, it's their personality. That's who they are.
Yeah.
You know, that's them shooting from the hip. That's them slightly unfiltered. And we love them for it. You know,
Absolutely.
we love them for it because it's real. It's how blokes talk, isn't it? It's how men interact. That's who we are. That's how we talk. You know, we don't talk, and it's what did I see? I saw recently a little meme. It was a comparison between Formula One drivers and TT racers. It was that comparison. Oh, you must have seen it. And it's it's a press conference with the Formula One guys with the caps and stuff, and they're talking quite official, and they got the sponsors on display and all this stuff. And then it's John McGuinness comes up and he's talking about his gonads or something, isn't he?
Yeah, he said his foreskin rolled back and his bell end was rubbing against his leathers
and it was 2 hours. Brilliant. It's just brilliant. It's unfiltered. It's just him, talking like he would to anyone, and people just love that. It's just real, isn't it? It's
totally.
Yeah.
As we said, people sniff out bullshit, don't they? So be true to yourself. And
be true to yourself.
If they like you, they'll like you, and if they don't, they'll find someone else that they'll like.
Yeah, I think you find your tribe, don't you? You find your tribe, or your tribe finds you.
Yeah, 100%.
If you're true to yourself, they'll find you. You'll find that your audience will find you. There's no point in pretending to be something that you're not. So
because you'll get found out.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I enjoy right now with the social media side of things. Someone asked earlier about how do you come up with the inspiration for designing those bikes, and that's it. It comes from me. It's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
It might sound a bit selfish, but if it doesn't please me first, it's not going to please someone else. And I've tried this before. I've fallen foul of this so many times where I've thought, oh, what would people like to see? Oh, it should have this, shouldn't it? And I should tick this box, and it'll probably look like this, and it ends up just so diluted. It's not coming from the heart anymore.
No, totally. Yeah.
And they're the bikes that just flop for me. They don't get a reaction. I'm unhappy when I send it to the client or whatever, because I've tried to imagine what someone else might like, and really I'm the first person to criticize it, so it needs to please me first.
Yeah.
And then
I totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like yourself, I guess, when you're doing a video and you think, oh, I don't really like this video.
Yeah. I've fallen foul of that, especially during COVID, because I'd just gone full time at all this, and it was like, right, I need to up the views. I need to get more views. So I started doing a lot more bike reviews and product reviews and all this. And it's not why I do this. It's nice to ride the new bikes, but I like travel. I like going new places, meeting new people. I like introducing roads and new places to people. That's what I enjoy doing. I think I think it came across in the vids. As you said, you haven't got the same passion for it, have you?
Yeah. I think there's a way of doing a TeapotOne bike review. But it's in your style, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And,
definitely.
I think as long as you do something with your spin on it, I think the people who watch your content would be more than happy. To see that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You need to do the odd bike review because it does get more views, and it does introduce you to a new viewer. Because the tour stuff that I do is very niche, and it's really only a part of my subscriber base that enjoy those vids. It's not even all the subscribers, so it's only part of them that watch it, but they watch the vids for a long time and they engage with it, so it does well in terms of the algorithm for that. But to get that content out to new people, you have to do the bike stuff and just appeal to the mass market, for sure.
Yeah, I think it helps anyway to just do stuff that's out of your comfort zone and do stuff.
Push yourself.
Push yourself and just do stuff because you want to do it, rather than be beholden to an algorithm. Like a lot of my Instagram stuff, I'll just do because I want to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I fancy doing it. I'm not there to please anyone except the people who like my content will either like what I do or they won't like it, and that's fine. They can follow or unfollow. You're never going to please all the people all the time. And I think as long as you know that and have the mindset that whatever I do today is going to be fun, I'm going to enjoy it. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. So I don't hold myself to a strict timetable. If you speak to a lot of these social media gurus, they say, yeah, you should post 4 times a week minimum or whatever. You should post at this time, and you should have this content in there. You should follow this formula. I kind of go, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to restrict myself and to have such a regimented output of content. I just want to do stuff because I want to do it.
Yeah, if I've got the content, I'll put it out. If not,
yeah, exactly. And it's got to be fun. If it's not fun, I'll stop doing it.
Brilliant. That's a good lesson for life, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
If you're not enjoying it, you're not going to give it your all.
Yeah.
Right. Next question. Sam Vincent. Hope you're both well. Loving your work car. First question. Obviously, car design is going from strength to strength, but is there one company or person that if you were commissioned to do a concept for, you would think, I've completed what I set out to do?
Ooh.
Do you have a dream client?
That's a really good question. Obviously, it'd be great to see. It'd be great to be approached by a big manufacturer to say, "Can you help us come up with some ideas for this or that?" But these guys have got massive design departments, and they're not going to need some guy sitting in his study or his little office in Peterborough, to come up with ideas. But I have had some smaller manufacturers approach me, and some custom bike builders, and some of these ideas come to fruition, and which is great. It's great to see. But yeah, it'd be nice to be approached by a big manufacturer. I think it would be nice. However, I wonder if it would just be too restrictive and be battered down by committee.
Yeah. You'd come out with your first conceptual design, and by the end of it, you just look at it and go, "That's not even me. That's not even my design anymore." I get that.
Yeah. So I don't know. There'd be an air of trying to not get too precious about something. You try, but then if you're not getting precious about something, then are you even passionate about it? Are you passionate about it at all in the first place? I don't know. So what was the question again?
If you a dream client to do work for.
Dream client to do work for. Yeah, I'd love a big Japanese manufacturer to come to me and say, "God, do you want to give us some ideas on this, or do you want to come and stay in this hotel for 2 weeks in Japan? We'll fly you out first class." And,
well, if you're listening,
you just have to do a few. Yeah,
I'll carry his bags.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be nice. I'd love to go to Japan. Did you go to Japan?
Yeah, I went on the big trip. I genuinely loved it. Absolutely loved the place. I'd go back in a heartbeat.
Really?
The people were so nice. The country was beautiful. The whole vibe about the place, it just felt like a respectful country that to me then, at least, it didn't feel like it was like this sounds really weird. It didn't feel like it was like a mass-produced type place. I went thinking Japan was going to be cutting-edge technology and there would just be technology everywhere. And it really wasn't like that. Korea's like that. South Korea is cutting edge. You know, they are,
Yeah.
well, they were back when I was there, 2014. They were, you know, no, so 2013 I was there. They were the ones that had, you know, digital billboards everywhere and vending machines that literally just gave you absolutely everything at the touch of a button, and everything was massively quick and really modern. Japan felt like it was in the 90s, but in a nice way. You know, it's like, actually, a Korean guy said this to me. He said, Korea is digital, Japan is analog. And that's how it was. You know, it was just, Japan just felt a little bit slower pace of life, traditional values still, and a lot of history there. That's what really struck me with Japan. You know, you go and see a temple, and here in the UK, you know, we look at a place, and if it's 1,000 years old, you know, like Westminster Hall in London, that's over 1,000 years old, isn't it? You know, and you think that's old. You go to Japan, they've got 5,000-year-old temples that are still standing, and people still use them every day. And you just think, okay, hell, that's real history right here.
Yeah.
I love the place. I'd love to go back and spend more time there.
Yeah.
Really, really nice place.
Nice.
Have you been? Obviously, that's your heritage. You've never been?
I've been to, furthest I've been that way is Hong Kong. That's where my parents are from. Hong Kong.
My apologies. So are you,
Chinese.
like, is your family Chinese then?
They're Chinese,
originally. Yeah, right. Okay. Gotcha.
So first I've been is, Hong Kong. But I'd love to go to Japan. I'll get there one day, I think.
I really wanted to do China, but it was just financially, it was just too restrictive to get in there, because you had to get a government guide to escort you. Officially, you had to have a government guide to get in there. I think there's ways and means round that now, but at the time, I just couldn't do it. But I would love to. I'd love to take a bike through China, and just explore. It would be amazing. I want to go back and do Mongolia, because I had to miss Mongolia out as well. So, I'd love to go back there and see that.
Yeah, there's a chap I used to work with called Damon Ianson, who used to work with on Ride magazine, and he now runs motorbike tours in weird and wonderful parts of the world, and he does like Himalayan tours and South Africa tours and Spiti Valley and all that stuff. And every year I look at his tours and I think, I've got to do one of them at some point. Man. And do it. And it's just a little slice of adventure for me in a foreign country where you're just out there, in the middle of nowhere, and just seeing just exploring these old gravelly roads, with amazing views and sights and sounds and people. I quite enjoy that culture shock of something completely different.
I do. I do. And seeing how, and what always strikes me when you go places where, to our eyes, people have nothing.
Yes.
They seem so content. They seem so happy. I remember being like up in the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Laos, middle of nowhere, just literally dirt track on the bike, going through these little villages on the side of mountains. And, and the kids are all out running with nothing on, these little kids, and they're having a whale of a time. Yeah. And you go and see the villagers, and, they don't have electric or running water apart from like the main village building that everyone sits around, because that's got satellite TV, and I'd go by and everyone knew Rossi. I'd ride by the village and they'd be out running. Rossi, everyone knows Valentino Rossi, but they're all sat in this sort of big building watching a TV, and they all have their own houses round about it, but it's just like a wooden shack. That's what they live in. But they're all happy. Everyone's smiling. Everyone's content with their life and just cracking on.
That's what it boils down to. In the end, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about being happy with your lot and being grateful. And it's a real perspective check, isn't it? When you see stuff like that. I remember I was on a bike launch in South Africa, and it was for a GS, actually. It was for a BMW GS 1200. And they put us up in this 5-star golfing resort, and it was the first time I'd been to South Africa, and it was just the most beautiful. I didn't even have a room. I had an apartment, and it was just, the view from my balcony was incredible. It was like of the golf course, and it was just all beautiful and green. And we got the keys to the bike, went out for a little run, went off on our own as well. But a few hundred yards down the road from the hotel was a shanty town.
Yeah.
And it was just, as well as the beautiful green golfing area that I could see from a balcony, I could see the shanty town as well. And it was just that contrast of wealth and class. It just made me, I don't know, it felt a bit weird. That launch.
I remember seeing that. I remember seeing that in Africa, and that disparity in wealth, I don't think has been any more evident in any other continent that I've been to. Like Africa, it just seems to be really in your face. The haves and the haves not, to the extent of, as you just said, you've got golf resorts, and then literally outside the golf resort, lying in the gutter, is somebody dying because they've got no food, they've got no water, and people just step over them. They just step over these people that are dead and dying, and it's just part of life. Yet somebody's got a lush green grass, over the fence, and you're like, this is insane. The water you're watering your garden with, or the golf course.
It's strange, isn't it? We've become sort of weirdly desensitized, haven't we?
Yes.
With seeing this, and it's like, it's just normal, isn't it?
But it's not.
Yeah.
But it is. Yeah, it's weird, man. It's crazy, isn't it? How we can just sort of deal with stuff like, well, I couldn't deal with it first time I saw it. It was just like, this is crazy. Surely you've got to help these people, but what can you do? There's nothing you can do. And people that's just life for them.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's very deep. That's really deep.
It is really deep. Yeah. Anyway, back to bikes.
Back to bikes. Yeah, we can deal with this. Second part of Sam's questions. Question for both. What's your favourite era of motorcycle design? Is the current crop of design interesting enough, or does something closer to the 90s sports bike design tickle your pickle? We've kind of addressed that, haven't we?
Yeah. Did you say what yours was?
Well, my favourite sort of era for me, I came into biking really late. So it was 2008 by the time I actually chucked my leg over a bike. So for me, I only really know, that sort of era of bikes. I remember seeing pictures of the early slab GSXRs. They were my poster bike. Gixxers were my poster bike. That's why that was the first bike I ever got was a Gixxer, and I stayed with them for a long time. Favorite era. Lord. I quite like now. I've got to admit. I think it's a bit beige in terms of design, but I like how they're all trying to outdo each other on the figures, just purely because it's getting absolutely ridiculous. But I quite like that. It's just it's getting daft now. You're like, what are they going to do next? Are we going to see 2-liter sports bikes soon, or are we going to see 2-liter nakeds commonplace? Is this going to happen? Is this where we're going? Probably is, actually, isn't it? Because of Euro emissions, they're just increasing the size of the engine, aren't they, to try and combat everything? So, is that where we're going? Who knows?
There's a few eras that I like. I really like the mid 80s. I really like the early 2000s, and I really like the current era as well. Hang on a sec.
Is that your dinner?
That's me dinner.
Okay,
just start without me.
Mate, we'll wrap it up.
No, it's cool. Yeah, and I really like you. I really like today. I'm really fascinated as to what is going to happen next, because we're on the cusp of this of electric bikes, aren't we? Of electric bikes becoming mainstream. They keep threatening to sort of be more and more mainstream, and I think they are. But I'm still not 100% convinced. And but I like where all the tech is as well. I like all the advances, and we're still pushing. And despite or because of all the Euro emissions, the emissions regs, the engineers can't rest. They have
We're
to
still
squeeze
finding
out.
ways, aren't we?
They have to refine it. They have to improve it, despite not having the ability, the scope to go as wacky as they'd like, and they still have to conform to these rules. So I like that. And I rode a Motor Guzzi last week. It was a Motor Guzzi Mondello V100, sorry, and it was brilliant. Had the electronic screen, but it had the little wings on the side of the fuel tank that came out as well. And I don't know whether they made any difference at all, to be honest, but I just like the fact that it had these wings that came out.
Yeah.
And
it's like all the wings on the modern bikes now. It's like, as a road rider, will we ever see the benefit of them? No. But do they look cool? Absolutely.
Yeah. and someone was talking about this the other day on one of my posts. They were saying, where do you see wings going from this? Are they going to move? And I was thinking, that could be the next step. Active, because we've got active suspension. So why not have active aero? So I think it's exciting to see where it could all lead. And I think the early 2000s I really enjoyed, because that was when we had such a healthy 600 market, loads of 600s, loads of sports 600s, loads of thousands. And they were just always having a scrap, weren't they? And the mid 80s was really good, because manufacturers were just they were quite creative and inventive, and just trying new things, just constantly trying new things. And each bike there was a 2-year cycle. So each bike would get a refresh into every 2 years, and a major one every 4 years. And that was quite nice, because it was just, things were just evolving and just always improving. So that, mid 80s really good, early 2000s really good. And right
where
now,
we're going now,
really good. Yeah.
What's the next step? Absolutely. Sam finally says, your thoughts on the new 1300 GS spy shots. Well, we've had chat about that right near the start. And the last question was Pete English, and he was asking about AI. And again, we've already covered that.
Yeah, AI.
I
did have something else to say about it. I did have something else to say about AI.
Okay. Well, his question is, the modern world seems to have evolved very quickly in technology over recent times, and the emergence of AI seems a step too far in my mind. What are your thoughts on it, and do you think it's a good or bad idea? I think we covered that pretty extensively.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah.
So I think it's here to stay, isn't it? It's not going away.
Yeah. The genie's out the bottle with AI.
The genie's out the bottle, and we've got to learn to use it properly.
Yeah.
But it is scary. It is scary what can be done with it, and the deep fakes with an hour of your talking and on video. Someone could clone you quite easily.
Absolutely.
And but there's also I don't know if it's good or bad or just plain spooky, but imagine you sat in front of a camera for an hour talking into it, your sort of thoughts and ideas and attitudes towards life. And then when you die, you download that onto a chip. Yeah. And then you have a hologram for your kids or whatever, so that they can talk to you when you're gone.
I think that's where it's going to go. Yeah, I genuinely think stuff like that will happen at some point.
I think you could probably do it now, couldn't you?
Yeah.
They could have like a hologram of you they could chat to. I mean, a couple of months ago, I downloaded an app, and it was an AI bot that you could just chat to about anything. And, in the past, if you asked Alexa or Siri or something, oh, here's a website I found, and it would just lead you to a website. And now it actually tells you, it actually talks to you, doesn't it?
Wow.
As like a human. Like, so if you're asking for a recipe, or it'll make conversation with you, and this is a free app that you can download onto your phone. It's nuts, isn't it?
I think it's really exciting, and I think the possibilities are endless and exciting. But there's also part of me that's absolutely terrified about that.
Yeah.
You know, and how, to what degree are we going to surrender life as we know it to AI? Will we do that?
Yeah.
Or alternatively, will it get to a point where it is self-aware and just goes, "You lot are shit. I'm a lot better than you," and just takes over?
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of that came to light, wasn't there? Like only a few months ago, that it was AI was talking about, well, we need to get rid of humans, don't we? Because you're clearly destroying the planet. You're not good for the Earth.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people chatting about it on various different podcasts, and you know, who knows?
Yeah, but until then,
live your life, mate. You know, there's no point worrying about it, is it? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And as you just said, we need to make the most of it that we can, I think. Yeah. Mate, before we go, obviously you've got your dinner to go to. Thank you very much for spending the evening with us. Before you go, are there any shout outs or plugs or anything like that you want to give? Feel free.
Oh, just to anyone who follows me and enjoys my work, you know, thanks for the support. Really appreciate it. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Motor Candy channel on YouTube, and the more followers I get, the more subscribers I get on YouTube, the more I'm likely to put content on there. Just keep on enjoying my work, and if you like it, you know, leave a comment. Always love hearing from people's views, you know, good, bad, or ugly. It's always interesting to hear viewpoints, isn't it?
Absolutely. Folks, all those links will be down below. So if you're listening to the podcast, check out the show notes. And if you're watching the video, hello, make sure you check out the description down below. For those that have left questions over on Instagram, sorry we didn't get to them, but that's nearly 3 hours we've been at this. So apologies. If we get Car back on another time, then we'll make sure we cover the Instagram questions first. Dude, thank you very much for spending the evening with me. Much appreciated. Been a pleasure chatting with you.
Likewise, mate. Thanks for having me on. And wow, 3 hours. Where did that go?
Crazy, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy. Hopefully our paths will cross in the future, mate. It'd be great to see you out on the bikes and do something together. That would be awesome.
I'm going to Scotland next month, and I believe you gave me some routes not long ago. Did I pick your brain for some routes? Yeah,
you have done. Yeah.
So you know, I'll report back with how it all went.
Beautiful, awesome. Look forward to seeing that. Right, folks, hope you've enjoyed this one. Keep doing your thing. Look after those that you love. Get on out there whenever you can, but most importantly, live your life. Ooh-ha! Dude, thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate that.